Welcome to the board meeting of the Behavioral Sciences. Whoa, that sounded. The Board of Behavioral Sciences. And at Universal City at the Hilton on the 4th floor, Salon A and B. It is May 10th at 8:40 in the morning. We're going to go ahead and call to order and establish a quorum.
Good morning. Renee Launer. Here. Dr. Christine Whitlisbach.
Here.
Dr. Peter Chu.
Here.
Sarita Coley.
Here.
Deborah Brown.
Here.
Betty Conley.
Here.
Christina Wong.
Here.
Dr. Leah Brew.
Here.
Samara Ashley.
Here.
Jonathan Maddox.
Here.
Max Disposti.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Okay, thank you. And, oh, sorry. Just,
Okay, good morning. My name is Kathleen Russell. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Judicial Excellence. We were at your last meeting and we've been aware of your work for 12 years that we've been in California. And I am here to just again reiterate the importance of your work and the complaints that come forward and our concerns, particularly around wanting to ensure that the administrative subpoena is being used in cases where your licensees are engaging in family law matters, because we do know that there have been some people turned away and complaints not dealt with because of a lack of a approval by people in the family law system. And I know that Ms. Madsen was in the leadership of AB, I think it was 1850, the Jones Bill, that was supposed to sort of deal with this issue of jurisdiction and make sure that your licensees engaging in family law are, following your guidelines and that those complaints can be processed by you. And we've also been working with the Senate Business and Professions Committee to ensure that the BBS and the Board of Psych are using the the procedure. The reason we're concerned about this is that there are serious issues, and there are also complaint prioritization guidelines, which the Department of Consumer Affairs put out, and we're hopeful that you're abiding by those as well, which says that any complaint dealing with serious harm to a patient should be dealt with first. And the people that we deal with, children are being beaten, raped, and molested by a parent who is divorcing the other parent. And your licensees are pretty frequently involved in giving those children to the dangerous parent and ignoring the abuse and calling it parental alienation, which is junk science, which the American Psychological Association has a position on. So we would hope that you would understand this is an ongoing crisis. It's been going on for decades. And I know there's at least one of your licensees who there have been over 60 complaints over the last 30 years, and she's continued to evade any sort of discipline. She continues to harm the public and is essentially a predator. So we hope that you will continue to deal with these complaint prioritization guidelines and also not let family law complaints just end up in the wastebasket. Thank you.
thank you very much. Anyone else from the public? Okay.
Good morning. I'm going to refrain from stating my name. I do not have a complaint at this time pending, but I have filed a complaint earlier this year, and I do plan on filing a complaint here in the near future. I do appreciate the prompt response that I received in regards to my complaint in regards to a social worker that's licensed through your organization, and this licensed social worker's been delinquent since November of 2017, and she still was proceeding in investigating a case that is I'm familiar with that affects me. And with this complaint, you guys did give me a prompt reply that you would be conducting a thorough investigation. And this thorough investigation, I provided adequate documents, and it was closed out within just a few weeks.
I'm not sure that this would be the body that you would be addressing at this point. I think I would direct you to speak to Ms. Mattson.
Who's that?
Ms. Mattson is the executive officer. She's standing right there in the black jacket. And I think she should answer your questions because, you know, we can't have a dialogue with you at all.
Okay, even though if I can make a suggestion online when the public goes to your online service that they can, I maybe suggest that you provide more clear information to what the public can provide, so it's not closed out immediately.
Okay, that is a very good.
Yeah, so I was leading
suggestion.
to that. I wasn't going into detail. I was.
Oh, okay.
So, because I do appreciate the prompt response back to you, and they did state in my correspondence that the above reference and an individual, because they didn't fall under their jurisdiction.
But now you're talking about a specific case, and I don't think that we can.
Okay. Well, in the future, I hope that maybe online that they can provide something to the public that can assist the public in providing all the necessary information. That was, for as in-depth as this case was, and how concerning it was to me, because I do understand your code of serious harm to patients. This was completely neglected, and the attention to it was just, I felt, thrown into the wastebasket. I didn't receive one phone call and to even question anything for future investigation.
And I think that Ms. Mattson would be the one that you would want to
Okay.
follow these questions. And she happens to be right here.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I don't mean
No,
to
it's
cut
all
you
right.
off. We can't talk about individual cases. And I'm
Right.
glad you didn't bring up their name.
No, it's
I
the
really-
process. It's
It's
the process.
and
Yes.
I'm going to direct you right there.
Public comment, talking to you as a member of the public, so.
Yes, as long as we don't get into the details of
I didn't. I'm not,
case.
and it's not pending, so that's why I'm here. It was closed out within just 2 weeks, and this
Okay.
is a 2-year situation of well-documented abuse. So
So I would, again, the process, I think is
Okay.
what you're trying to tell us there's an issue with.
I'll take that
And
attention
please-
to that department. Thank you.
Yeah, you've
Thank
got
you
the
for hearing me.
executive officer right there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh. All right. Okay, so moving on, we are going to, on tomorrow's agenda, we have 3 people that we're going to be recognizing that are leaving the board. But 2 of the members are actually, today is their last day, so recognizing them tomorrow would be a moot point since they would be gone. So I'm going to take the liberty of recognizing those 2 people right now under public comment, and then we'll move forward with the hearing. Okay, is that all right? Okay. It'd probably be easier if you came up here. I'd like to read the resolutions. The first one is to Samara Ashley. Do I have to read it?
Oh, no.
We could read it
Spare
together. Spare them. Whereas. Oh. Here you go. Whereas Samara Ashley faithfully served as a member of the California State Board of Behavioral Sciences from January 1st, 2010 to 2018. Whereas Ms. Ashley served as a member of the Policy and Advocacy Committee and the Compliance and Enforcement Committee. Throughout her years of service, she gave fully of herself her ideas and acted forthrightly and conscientiously, always with the public interest and welfare in mind. She discharged these important responsibilities in a manner reflecting great credit upon herself and the board. Her colleagues wish to express to her their high esteem and regard. Therefore, let it be resolved this 10th day of May 2018, that the members of the California State Board of Behavioral Science express heartfelt appreciation to Samara Ashley for your outstanding contribution that you've made during your term in service to the board.
Thank you
We
very
are
much.
going to miss you. Oh, wants a picture of us.
Thank you. Thank you all.
The next individual is Sarita Kohli. Whereas Sarita Kohli faithfully has served from June 21st, 2010 to 2018. She's served as a member of the Continuing Education Appeal Committee, Supervision Committee, and the Licensing and Exam Committee. And she's been instrumental in reforming the board's supervision requirements. Whereas throughout her years of service, she gave fully of herself, her ideas, and has acted forthrightly and conscientiously, always with the public interest and welfare in mind. Whereas she has discharged these important responsibilities in a manner of reflecting great credit upon herself and the board. Her colleagues wish to express her their high esteem and regard. Therefore, let it be resolved this 10th day of May 2018 that the members of the California State Board of Behavioral Sciences express heartfelt appreciation to Sarita for the outstanding contribution she has made during her term of service on the board.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Thank you, Sarita. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a while. Yes, okay, another photo.
Did you get my good side?
Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot.
Did either one of you like to say a few words? Samara, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would just like to say thank you so much to the board members. It has been truly a pleasure and an honor to serve with you all. It really is a sad day, but I'm looking forward to hearing all the wonderful work that you are doing, and wanted to just say thank you to Kim, who and your staff who've been absolutely wonderful in helping to work with me and make sure that in the early days of late 2009 and early 2010 that I really got up to speed and understood the amazing work that this board does. And so I know that the public is in wonderful hands with you all, so thank you.
Well, Samara stole most of my words, so, but thank you. I think this has been really a great honor and a learning experience for me. And I have to say that the members of this board are outstanding. They so collaborative, so open. There is a dialogue that happens, and we're not in any way feel like you can't voice your opinions. There's a real interest in protecting the public and being, doing so with integrity and great deliberation. So I've really learned a lot from my fellow board members, and thank you all for the opportunity. And the staff, Steve and Kim and Christina and Cesar and Pearl and so many of you, outstanding staff. This has really been a privilege to serve on this board. So I'm sorry that I'm trimming off and won't get to do this again for a while, but maybe someday I'll be back. Thank you so much.
Tomorrow we will recognize Renee Lahner, who is also leaving our board. And so I just did a little math, at least the basic math I'm able to do. And I think I'm right, I probably could be wrong. We're losing 28 years of historical knowledge on this board in just these three individuals. 28 years of dedication to this board. with 3 individuals, which is a lot. And it's going to put giant holes on this board. So, I don't want to cry. Okay, so with that, we really appreciate everything you guys have done. We really do. So, thank you both, all 3 of you. We're recognizing you tomorrow on your last day. We did not, these guys won't be here after today. Okay. Well, that's right. Okay, that's just, 28 years is just incredible. That shows, I think, how dedicated this board is, and every time there's an opportunity to stay on this board and be reappointed, everyone steps up and they do it, because that's where they want to be. And the continuity of this board is incredible, and I think that helps the public, and it certainly helps all the licensees for the stability of the board. So we're not bringing on constantly new people and not knowing what was being done before that. So I think that that goes back to the public and public safety. All right, at this point, I'm going to turn over the meeting to Judge Tenzer, and we'll start with the hearings.
Okay, we're going to go off the record for a second before we start the hearing so that I can explain some of the procedure, and then I'll go back on the record and we'll start the hearing. Okay, so we're off the record. All right, my name is Irina Tenzer. I'm the administrative law judge who's been sent to preside over the hearings from the Office of Administrative Hearings. And are you the Deputy Attorney General?
Yes.
Can I get a card from you, please?
Yes.
Okay, and I just want to ask everybody if you could please silence your cell phones. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Ms. Wada, are there any matters before we go on the record that you wanted to talk about in any of the hearings?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so basically I'm going to ask, let me see, Ms. Kelly, are you here to, yes, and you're represented by Attorney Scott Harris, is that right? Okay, so sir, you approached me before the hearing to let me know that you have documents you wanted to distribute. All right, so why don't you distribute them so that the board members and myself have the documents before. Okay. And then, are you Mr. Merhi? Merhi?
Yes.
Okay, and is Mr. Babcock here?
Yes, I am, Judge.
Okay, so why don't you come up and sit in front?
Thank you.
And then also, Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you come up and sit in front also? So,
Right here.
Mr. Merhi, Mr. Babcock, and Ms. Mendoza, are you representing yourselves today?
I am.
You are?
Yes,
And-
Judge, I am.
Okay, so I'm going to be explaining off the record. Have you ever been through one of these type of hearings? In front of the board?
Yes.
Okay, well, so you have an advantage, but I'm going to explain what's going to be happening today. I'm just presiding over this hearing. What's going to happen is that there will be a brief opening statement that is made by the Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Emily Wada, and then she's going to be submitting into evidence the petition for early termination or the petition for reinstatement that's at issue in the case. I'm going to be marking that as Exhibit 1, and then I'm going to be asking the petitioner if they have any objection to that document being entered into evidence. And, you know, presumably they will not have an objection. I'll enter it into evidence. Ms. Wada will make a brief presentation explaining the history of the case, and then it's going to be the petitioner's turn. At that point, what the board is interested in hearing about is your rehabilitation. The board is aware of why your license was disciplined. It's in the petition. So the focus is the rehabilitation. And then Ms. Wada may ask you questions, and then each of the board members will ask you questions. And I'll go around left to right and right to left so that nobody feels left out, to make sure, if anybody has a question. So they'll be asking you questions. After that, there's going to be a brief closing, and then the matter is going to be submitted. And then after the hearing, I will meet with closed session, at which point the board will make a decision, and then you'll be notified of the decision in writing. Does anybody have any questions about the procedures? I'm going to be repeating these procedures on the record, but I'm not going to be repeating the same procedure explanation for each of the petitioners. I'm just going to ask you, have you heard the explanation? Do you need any additional explanation? And there, we're going to go into it. Anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. All right, so we have, we're going to go on the record now. Okay. So we're on the record. We're here this morning before the Board of Behavioral Sciences to review 2 petitions for early termination of probation and 2 petitions for reinstatement. The first petition we're going to be hearing today is the petition for early termination of probation of Shannon Marie Kelly. My name is Irina Tenser. I'm the administrative law judge who's been sent here from the Office of Administrative Hearings to preside over these matters. Will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with Max Disposti? And if I mangled your name, please tell me.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Public member, sorry. I was still reading.
Okay.
Jonathan Maddox, LMFT member.
Samara Ashley, public member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member. Christina Wong, LCSW member. Betty Connolly, LEP member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Sarita Kohli, LMFT member.
Peter Chu, public member.
Christine Whitlisbach, public member.
Renee Launer, LCSW member.
Okay, and can I get appearances for the record from the DAG and then also from counsel for petitioner?
Good morning, Your Honor. Emily Wada, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Good morning, Your Honor. Scott Harris on behalf of the petitioner, Shannon Kelly, who is also present and to my left.
Okay, and this is agency case number 2002-014-001-367 and OH case number 2018-040-268. I explained the procedures off the record. Mr. Harris, did you need me to explain anything prior to proceeding?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Wada.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence Exhibit number 1, which I have a copy for Your Honor, if I may approach.
Yes. Exhibit 1 is marked.
Exhibit number 1 is the petition packet, including the petition itself with attachments that were initially included by the petitioner. The prior board decision adopting a stipulated settlement with the petitioner, a notice of hearing, and certification of licensure. I believe the board members and the petitioner have already been provided with these copies of these documents, a total of 32 pages. I'd now like to offer a summary of the case.
Okay, is there any objection to Exhibit 1 being entered into evidence?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Exhibit 1 is entered, go ahead.
The petitioner, Shannon Kelly, was issued an associate clinical social worker registration on December 10th, 2012. Then on August 14th, 2015, the board filed an accusation against her registration based upon a DUI conviction that she sustained on October 16th, 2014. The brief circumstances of that DUI were that in June 2014, petitioner hit a parked car while driving drunk with a blood alcohol content of 0.29%. The board subsequently adopted a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order in a decision that became effective on February 24th, 2016. Pursuant to that order, petitioner's registration was immediately revoked, the revocation was stayed, and petitioner was placed on probation for 5 years with optional and standard terms and conditions. The petitioner subsequently became licensed as a licensed clinical social worker on December 30th, 2016, and her probation carried over pursuant to the terms of the stipulated settlement. Now petitioner is requesting an early termination of probation and is represented by an attorney at these proceedings. In her initial petition packet, Ms. Kelly indicated that she would like her probation to end early because she's followed all probation terms and conditions to date. She's completed her criminal DUI probation requirements, and she's proven herself to be an employable and dedicated clinician that is open about her past with alcohol. In support of her petition, she's also submitted multiple letters of recommendation from her current therapist and coworkers. I'd like to formally offer Exhibit 1 into evidence. It's been accepted already? Thank you, Your Honor. I'm prepared to proceed with questions for Ms. Kelly unless she wishes to make an opening statement first.
Did you want to make a statement, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Your Honor, if
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. Thank you, Your Honor, Madam Chair, and members of the board. We thank you for your time today. Ms. Kelly and I understand your role in regulating the profession governed by the Board of Behavioral Sciences and the important role you play in public protection. Ms. Kelly comes before you very humbled by her experience in 2014 and the 2 years or more that she has spent on probation under the guise of this board. We believe the evidence will demonstrate that she has met what this board calls the criterion for rehabilitation and is safe to practice into the future. And understanding that discipline is for future-looking events, not to be punitive or past-looking, we believe that Ms. Kelly's entire life is demonstrative of her safe and competent ability to practice into the future as a colleague of yours, licensed by the board. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wada? Let me swear her in, though. Okay. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is true and correct? And can you please state and spell your name for the record? Thank you.
Shannon Marie Kelly, SHANNON MARIEKELLY.
Go ahead, Ms. Wada.
Ms. Kelly, have you been arrested for any reason since your June 2014 DUI?
No.
What steps have you taken or are currently taking to make sure that you do not drink and drive again in the future?
I completely have abstained from using alcohol. I attend therapy once a week as well as AA meetings 3 times a week. I have built a support network around me, and I make sure that I keep myself accountable on a daily basis. I also incorporate a lot of the new healthy coping skills that I have obtained, and I use those as well.
If your petition is granted today, do you plan to keep attending your psychotherapy and the AA meetings?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you plan to use this experience in helping others as a licensed clinician?
Well, I think, this has been a very humbling experience for me over the past 2 years. I have learned so much about myself, and I have been through it. The current population I work with are mostly individuals who are on probation. And I think that I can relate to them, and I know that I'm no different than they are. And I have a better understanding of what it feels like to be in that situation. I have a lot more compassion and empathy for the individuals I currently work with.
Lastly, have you paid the full cost recovery amount under the stipulated settlement, $2,450? You
Yes.
paid that to date?
Yes.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, can we please mark the packet of documents that was distributed to you and the board members?
I'm sorry, actually, I need to go through the board members first, 1 second, before I get to you, to see if they have any questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Max Dispasi, did you have any questions?
Just briefly, first of all, thank you for being here, Ms. Kelly, and congratulations on all the progresses. One thing that I would like to ask you just, so seems like actually the guidelines in place are being helpful for you. So why now? Why asking for a reduction of probation, and what is going to look like after, sorry, not reduction, I apologize. So why presenting the petition now, and then what are the motivations for that?
Why I want to be terminated from
Yes.
probation? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry about that.
I-
Coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
No, that's okay. I believe that I have the tools to monitor myself going forward. I have appreciate everything that the board has done for me, and all these guidelines I think were necessary. With that being said, I plan to continue using all of these guidelines going forward, and I believe that I can do it on my own.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Jonathan Maddox, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you for coming in today. So the Deputy Attorney General asked you about your intention related to what services or supports you plan to maintain if you were to be released from your probation. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more in depth about what services or activities you will continue if you are granted early termination.
I will absolutely continue going to therapy once a week. That has been instrumental in my sobriety. That has been something that I've learned more about myself, and I understand why I drank when I did. I have an underlying anxiety issue, a social anxiety issue, and I was using alcohol as a crutch to self-medicate at the time. So therapy has been very helpful to me, so I absolutely will continue, and I've already talked to my therapist about that. I will also continue to go to the AA meetings. I have built a really supportive network of women around me, and I know that I'm not alone in this, and that addiction is very powerful, and you need to have the community around you to be successful.
Thank you. So then my follow-up question is, what is your intention for your relationship with alcohol to be once you are off probation? At that point, you can, if you choose to,
Right.
drink again. So I'm wondering, have you thought that through, and what are your intentions?
I have absolutely no interest in returning to that lifestyle. I am a completely different person today than I was 2.5 years ago. I have developed a healthier lifestyle, a new set of coping skills. I've gotten really into fitness and well-being and eating healthy. And these are things, I like my life today. I didn't like the person I was then. So I have no interest in returning to that person.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the work you've done on yourself.
Thank you.
Those are all the questions I have.
Samora Ashley? Dr. Leah Brew?
I do have a lot of questions. Hi, and congratulations on your wedding coming up.
Oh, thank you.
Skimmed through those notes. So it seems like you've taken that anxiety and turned it into discipline, which is a
Yes.
great use of it. And you mentioned a lot of coping skills. Can you tell me what some of those coping skills are?
Absolutely. One of the things I do daily is I'm a very routine person. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I work out. I feel like that keeps me in a great state of mind throughout the day. I also have gotten really into meditation and prayer, which is something I didn't have before. My spirituality was non-existent prior to this process, and now that is a big part of my life. So for that, I am grateful. And, you know, my life just looks a lot different. My weekends consist of going hiking and doing a lot of outdoors activities, whereas before it was, you know, going to restaurants and bars on the weekends, and that's just not who I am to this day. So.
Okay. And you had talked about your support network, and I would
hope that your fiance would be one, and it
Yes.
sounds like the group of women you're with in AA are
Yes.
another sober group. Are there other people that you have in your support network?
Yes, my best friend, who I've known since I was a child, she's been sober for a long time. So she is somebody who I turn to a lot when I need assistance, as well as my therapist.
Then, what is your date of sobriety?
February 15, 2016.
Okay, so I'm really curious. The DUI was in 2014, yes?
Mhm.
So what happened in 2016?
Well, after the DUI, I'll be honest with you guys, I did have a couple times where I did drink. I didn't overindulge like I did on the day of my arrest. With that being said, knowing that probation was coming up, I knew that I needed to make this life change. And what was happening before wasn't working for me. It did take me a little bit of time to get there, but I did make that decision, and I've been very strict about that since.
Okay. All right, so the recommendation letter from your therapist talked a lot about your external behaviors, and you've listed some other things. I guess what internal shifts have gone on? You said focus on health right now. I would imagine if you have an anxious temperament, that just you're born with that. So
Yes.
how are you managing that, and whatever other issues that you might be working on in therapy?
Well, like I said, my spirituality is starting to play a big role, and I absolutely check in with myself every day and figure out what I need. Self-care is very important to me. I've also learned a different way of thinking, a different perspective on life that I didn't have before. I didn't know who I was 2.5 years ago. You know, I was going to work, partying on the weekends, going to work, partying on the weekends, and I didn't even really know what I enjoyed doing. And that has completely changed. So I'm constantly working on myself and my inner strength and things like that. And through meditation, I think, is also quieting my mind and learning those coping skills as well. I incorporate that.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And then we never know where the board is going to go, whether it's early termination or maybe an adjustment to probation. If it was an adjustment and not early termination, what would you want to reduce or change in your probation, and why?
I would say it would be the biological fluid testing. That can be pretty difficult, especially with my current job. I work every weekend, and the testing sites are only open a certain amount of hours, so you have to leave work, which can take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, because where I go is an urgent care facility. And so that is the most troublesome for me personally.
But you were going to continue therapy in AA anyway. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. It's helpful.
Okay, Christina Wong?
Yes. Welcome to our board meeting. I know it's very, very nervous for you, I can see. So, but thanks for being here. So I do have a couple of questions also. You talked about the population you serve.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about your job and what currently you do?
Absolutely. Right now, I have 2 jobs. The first job, I work for the Santa Barbara County Jail, and I do mental health assessments with inmates, as well as I monitor them on suicide watch. So that is my job there. My second job is for the County of Santa Barbara. I work for the Crisis Stabilization Unit. And we're a 23-hour facility, so I basically am in charge of all the discharge planning. So figuring out where people are going to go, their next level of care from
I'm
there.
sorry, I'm just going to ask you to slow down a little bit for the court
sorry.
reporter, because she has to
Nervous.
take down everything
Okay.
you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So you're working 2 jobs.
Yes.
That's a very, very high level of stress.
Yes.
So now, since you're talking about, developing new coping skills and stuff, and it looks like you almost feels like you work 7 days a week. I mean,
No,
they're both
part-time.
part-time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in that sense, how do you, give us a little bit more example, how in like a typical week, how do you kind of get in your time to do the, the coping skill and the self-care
Absolutely.
and
absolutely. So I can just give you an example of what my day looks like. I wake up anywhere between 4:30 and 5 a.m. And I have a cup of coffee, and then I work out. So whether that's doing at a home workout or I go to the gym, that is my first step. After that, I eat breakfast, and I go into work. Throughout the day, when I take breaks, I'm lucky enough in Santa Barbara, it's a beautiful setting, even though you're in the jail, but outside of the jail. So I take, on all of my 10-minute breaks, I take long walks and throughout my entire break. And I make sure that I'm deep breathing, I'm meditating, I check in with my coworkers. We provide a really good support system for each other because it is a stressful environment working in a jail. So yeah, I make sure absolutely every day to do self-care throughout the day. After work, the way I unwind is I take a bath and I read. So
That's good.
yeah,
Good.
a lot of personal detail. I'm sorry.
Well, that's part of the honesty, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
So did your coworker know that you're on probation?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot too. I'm
Uh-huh.
very open with everybody about it, and so it's a constant dialogue.
That's good. So now you also, I noticed that you changed therapist.
Yes.
So can you give us a little explanation?
She moved, unfortunately. She moved out of state, and I tried to keep her, but we couldn't do teletherapy, so that was not an option. Unfortunately, it has to be face to face. So I had to find somebody new.
So, so does it affect you about, what is the impact on you when, the change therapist that you have to restart your story again and establish a relationship?
Right. It was difficult. It was very difficult, and it was a loss for me because this is very stressful. So,
that's hard.
Sorry.
Oh.
Do you need a break? Okay.
Well, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Betty Connolly?
You good? Okay. I'm just kind of wondering a little bit about that period of time between the DUI that was a really pretty high blood alcohol content there, and the time that you actually kind of identify as your sobriety date. So did you feel like you were managing your drinking in those 2 years?
I wouldn't say that I was managing it. I wasn't really indulging in drinking. There were a few incidents where I had gone out with a couple friends and we had some drinks. It wasn't out of control, but at the same time, I knew ultimately that I needed to make a change during that time. And probation gave me that opportunity to really start with that. Does that make sense?
So I don't usually ask this, but it seems appropriate in this case. Do you identify yourself as being an alcoholic?
I would say that I am in some respects. I've never been dependent, physically dependent, psychologically dependent on alcohol, but my drinking had become problematic. So in that sense, yes, I am.
And so going forward, do you see in the future that you might be able to be a social drinker, or
No.
what are you?
No, I don't even. I have no interest in drinking anymore. That was who I was before. I like myself so much better now.
So your intent is to just not drink ever?
No.
Period.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's a hard conversation to have, and I appreciate you coming in.
Chair Deborah Brown?
I have no questions.
Okay.
Okay, that was Sarita Coley. Dr. Peter Chu?
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, as said before, I know it's very difficult to come in front of the board. I do have a couple of questions. Are you doing the 12-step program right now?
Yes.
What steps are you?
I've completed.
You completed. You plan to do it again, or?
I think when I need to, I will.
Okay. How do you assess yourself in terms of your role to recovery? What stage you're at? Because your sobriety date is February 15, 2016. It's only a little bit more than 2 years. So I just wanted to see how you feel about your recovery if you're never going to drink again.
I feel really good about where I'm at in the recovery process. I'm more comfortable with myself than I have ever been. And I think that was one of the main reasons that I would drink was to self-medicate my anxiety, my social anxiety. But through AA, I have learned how to be in a social situation and be okay with that because I have people around me that are very supportive as well. I would never be able to sit in front of a board 2 years ago, if that makes sense. I think having the women in the support group and my best friend and my fiance who's super supportive is very important to me, and I think that helps me and keeps me accountable.
Do you have a sponsor?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Christine Whitlisbach.
Perfect. Dr. Chu asked all my questions. I just have a couple more. I guess I'm a little more interested in your experience in AA. You're going 3 times a week?
Yes.
Right now? Okay. So if you were to not be on probation anymore, how many times a week would you go?
Well, I meet with my sponsor, and I have a women's meeting that I really enjoy. So it would still be 2 to 3 times a week, probably.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay. And tell me, you have a women's group?
Yes.
Okay. And the other 2 meetings are?
It's usually random. Sometimes Friday nights I like to go to the CHIP meeting because I like to see everybody's progress. That's helpful for me to watch. And then it depends. My sponsor and I like to switch it up, just depending upon what we both have time for.
Okay.
Because we tend to go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And I just want to commend you. You've done a lot of work in the last couple of years. So
Thank you.
Yeah, we see that.
Renee Launer.
I have no questions. The pleasure of being last is everyone asked my question. every question I had, I don't.
Your Honor,
So
I actually
I
have a
just
follow-up
want to-
question, if you don't mind.
Okay, so Jonathan Maddox, you have a follow-up question?
Yes.
I wasn't finished.
Oh, no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
she's done.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
right.
I thought you were done.
No, I just wanted to thank you for coming in and congratulate you on really hard work over a relatively brief period of time.
Thank you.
But congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Maddox.
And I just want to reiterate, thank you for your forthright answers for all the questions. I did want to ask, how old were you when you first established a relationship with alcohol? When did you first take your first drinking?
I would say in high school.
Okay. 9th grade?
Oh,
12th
no. Maybe senior year,
grade? Okay, so you might have been about 17 or 18?
18.
Okay. How would you describe your alcohol use between the age of 17 and this incident in 2014?
I would say it's pretty similar. I kind of got into this routine of I'd work really hard during the week, and then the weekend was my time to indulge and hang out with friends and go out. That's always kind of been the lifestyle,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So I got in kind of this just routine of working Monday through Friday, go out Friday, Saturday, and then start it all over again. And that is why, now I look back on that and I realize that was all medication for me. I had this anxiety issue for as long as I can remember, and in therapy I've learned that this comes from my childhood. And so learning that and working through that has been so helpful for me.
Would you describe that sort of playing hard on the weekend, would you describe that use during that window between high school and the date in 2014 as excessive? Like, even though you weren't driving, you may have drank to the point where you were pretty inebriated? How would you describe
Not
that?
all the time.
Not all the time.
I think just depends what it was. An example, the day I got the DUI, it was a friend's celebratory weekend. We had a bunch of people in town, and it was, I overindulged. you know, and I made a decision that I regret and I take full responsibility for. You know, there were times that I've overindulged in the past, but that was kind of the pattern that's been happening.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, do any of the board members have any additional questions? Okay, I just want to put on the record a quorum of the board is present. And Mr. Harris, do you have questions for your client?
Yes, Your Honor. I want to thank the board. You've done my job for me. My list of questions has been narrowed down to just a couple. So thank you. Your Honor, at this time, though, may we also please mark the supplemental exhibits that were distributed to the board members and yourself at the commencement of this proceeding. We can either mark it as A or number 2. It's your discretion.
A.
Okay.
Okay, Exhibit A is marked.
And I would represent for the board that Exhibit A is a court docket that represents the termination of Ms. Kelly's criminal probation in 2017, and then a series of 6 additional letters. One of them is a letter from Dr. Nye, who also submitted a letter with the original petition. So it's kind of a follow-up letter, if you will. If you don't mind, I proceed with some questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Very good. Just, Ms. Kelly, for the record and for the board to understand, from where did you obtain your master's in social work?
From USC,
And in what year was that?
2012.
And in the course of your employment as a licensed social worker, have you ever been disciplined by an employer?
No,
Have you been terminated by an employer?
no,
Do you believe that you have good relationships with your coworkers?
yes,
And you indicated during the questioning by the board members that you had been open and honest about this probation with your coworkers.
yes,
Do you believe that you can assist other licensees in understanding the board and probation to help them in their careers?
yes. Actually, I have that conversation with a lot of my coworkers about getting an Uber or making more responsible decisions so you don't, I mean, everybody's seen what I've been through, and so I'm very open and honest about it with all of my coworkers. Everybody knows my situation, and I think it needs to be talked about. It's not talked about enough, and that's something that I personally strive to do.
During your course of your probation with this board, are you aware of any violations that you incurred?
No.
And have you ever had a positive blood screen test for use of alcohol or drug while being tested by this board?
No.
And I believe you you testified that your sobriety date was in February of 2016?
Yes.
And under oath today, do you swear under penalty of perjury that you have not had anything to drink since that time?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Brew asked in her questioning about the potential for adjustments to probation, and you answered, if you recall, about the issues you face with random bodily fluid testing.
Yes.
Are there any other reasons why you would like this board to consider your petition to terminate probation?
Yes. I actually have a major life-changing job opportunity that is available to me in July. My dream job, I will say, but I was notified by them that they'll take me, but they will not take me under my probationary status. So it's difficult for me to further my career and where I really want to be because of my status of probation.
You know, for the record, can you please tell us what is this dream job?
I actually have an opportunity to work at Kaiser
And
as a case manager and therapist.
And they're aware of your criminal conviction?
Yes.
And are they aware that you're currently on probation?
Yes.
And do you recall who informed you that if you were not on probation, that this job would be available to you?
The supervisor.
Very good. In general, what can you say to this board to ensure to them that these incidents of your past won't occur again?
Well, I believe that I have the tools to monitor myself. I have a great supportive system, and I've learned so many coping skills to help me be successful in staying sober. I have a great respect for the field of social work, and I would like to continue forward without probation. I would like to have a clean slate and further my career. And with that being said, I plan to continue to follow these rules that are already set in place for me. I enjoy going to meetings. I love going to therapy. And working with my sponsor has also been really helpful. So these are all things that I believe I can do on my own. And I want to prove to myself that I'm able to do this on my own.
And just for administrative purposes, does Dr. Nye know you're here today?
Yes,
Does she support, based upon your knowledge, your petition for early termination of probation?
she does.
And you're committed to working with her into the future?
Yes.
And you've submitted letters, additional letters that were just handed to the board today. Can you please tell us who Miss Sarah Sanchez is?
Sarah Sanchez is my coworker at the county jail, and she has now been promoted to supervisor there.
And how long have you worked with Miss Sanchez?
Over a year.
And does she know you're here today?
Yes.
And can you please tell me, your fiance, is that Mr. Kevin Crook?
Yes.
And is he here today?
Yes.
And of course he supports you.
Yes.
You testified earlier that your best friend has been sober. Is that Miss Erica Pepper?
Yes.
And she submitted a letter on your behalf?
Yes.
And how long have you known Miss Pepper?
Whew, since we were babies. No, kindergarten.
And has
Yeah.
her sobriety helped you through the last several years?
Yeah, I mean, we check in with each other daily, and we are absolutely supportive of each other.
And the last two letters that we provided in supplemental exhibits are from Betsy and Tom Kelly. Who are they?
They're my parents.
And do they play an important role in your life?
They do. We're very close. Now. Hence the anxiety, no.
If you're left to be off probation and under your own devices, do you think that you can be a competent and safe practitioner alongside the licensees of this board?
Yes, I do. I have a huge respect for this field, and I love working with people, and I think this experience has really shown me that I'm no different from the person sitting across from me, and everybody goes through stuff, but to be able to walk that path and come out on the other end of it successful, I think is so important. And this has changed my life.
Thank you. I have nothing further. Oh, yes, Your Honor, please.
ahead.
Can we please move Exhibit A?
Ms. Wada, any objection? No objection, Your Honor. Exhibit A is entered. Board members, does anybody else have any questions?
I do, actually.
Oh, and this is, can you
Dr.
say your-
Brew.
Okay.
Yes. Does your fiance drink?
No.
Okay. Is it because he's in recovery? He just.
He never had an issue with drinking.
Okay.
And so he's 100% supportive of me and my changes I've made. So he is my new workout and hiking partner. And I think, even for him, between the both of us, kind of a personal thing, but we've both lost a lot of weight because of this. And so, like I said, this has just completely changed my life. I'm not the person I was 2.5 years ago.
Thank you. I just wanted to check
Yeah, of
your
course.
sober support system. So
Of course, of course.
Any other questions from the board members? Okay, Ms. Wada, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Closing? Do you want to make a closing statement?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
If the board would like a recommendation, I can certainly make one. However, I think that this matter is properly within their area of expertise.
Okay.
So I have no closing to offer. Thank you.
Does the board want a recommendation from Ms. Wada? Okay. Mr. Harris, did you want to make a closing statement?
Thank you. Again, Your Honor, Madam Chair, and members of the board, thank you for your time. I think that Ms. Kelly has probably said it best. She may not need me to make a closing statement. I think that her experiences over the last 4 years since her arrest and the last 2.5 years of sobriety speak for themselves in many respects. I said in my opening that the primary question is what purpose discipline serves into the future. We know under the law it may not be punitive, and we know that it can't remedy past acts. The question is whether it's necessary, given the totality of the circumstances, to protect the public. And I think that the evidence here today, if we look at the recommendation from Dr. Nye, if we look at her colleague statements, whether it's Mr. Joshua Woody or Ms. Sanchez, who have worked with her, or those from her support system of friends and family, what you will see is someone who is a dedicated and competent clinician, someone who has proven herself worthy to work for the County of Santa Barbara and within the jail system, and who has an opportunity which right now is inhibited by her probation. She's asking for this board to lift a cloud that's over her head, and that cloud was created by her, and she hopes that, I think what she's conveyed is that she has proven that she can move that cloud on her own. So we would ask for you to consider whether discipline is necessary. We believe the evidence suggests that she has met all of the necessary rehabilitation elements to lift that probation and allow her to stand by you equally as a practitioner and to serve the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This matter is submitted, and the board will issue a decision, and we are off the record, and we're taking a 10-minute break. So back here at 9:50, 9:51. Thank you. Get started. Okay. All right. We're going to get started, so I'm going to ask everybody, when the court reporter is taking things down, I'm just going to ask for the board members and for the petitioner not to speak over each other. Just take a pause and then start talking, okay? So that makes it much easier for her to take it down. All right, so we are on the record, and we are here this morning for the petition for early termination of probation of Rami Sami Merhi. And this is matters before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, and this is agency case number AP-2011-1068, OH case number 2018-040-267. My name is Irina Tenser. I'm the administrative law judge who is presiding over these matters, and Mr. Merhi, are you representing yourself today?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, so you heard the explanation about the procedures that was explained for the first petition, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm just going to go through it a little bit so you have a little bit more of an understanding of the procedure. First, the DAG, Ms. Wada, is going to make a statement, and then I'm going to place you actually under oath, and I'm going to ask you if you have a brief statement you want to make to the board about why you're seeking the early termination of your probation. After that, the board members, I'll go around right to left, and each one may have a question for you. At that point, you're going to be responding to their questions, and then it's going to be your turn to talk about your state of rehabilitation and why you think you're entitled to early termination of probation. Then I'm going to ask if there's any closing statement by Ms. Wada, and then I'm going to ask if there's any additional questions from the board, and then you're going to have a chance to make a closing statement. And then when you make your opening statement, I'm just going to ask you to keep it brief because everything will get fleshed out during the hearing. Okay, so can I get the appearance for the DAG, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. Emily Wada, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
And will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with Renee Lahner.
Renee Lahner.
Christine Whitlisbach.
Peter Chu.
Sunita Kohli.
Deborah Brown. Betty Connolly. Christina Wong. Leah Brew.
Samara Ashley.
Jonathan Maddox.
Max Disposti.
A quorum of the board is present. And Ms. Wada, did you have a statement you want to make?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit Number 1, a petition packet. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Exhibit 1 is marked. Mr. Mayor, did you have any objection to Exhibit 1 being entered?
No, ma'am.
Exhibit 1 is entered.
Thank you, Honor. The board members have also been provided with a copy of Exhibit Number 1. It's about 42 pages, and it includes the petition itself with an attachment from Petitioner, which appears to be a transcript of educational courses. It also includes a previous stipulated settlement with a statement of issues attached, a prior decision on a petition for modification of probation terms that was effective January 23rd, 2017, and then a notice of hearing and a license certification. I would now like to offer a summary of the case. The petitioner was issued an associate marriage and family therapist registration on October 1st, 2013, after his initial application was denied and a statement of issues was filed on August 27, 2012. The statement of issues was based upon 3 causes for denial. The first was the commission of a dishonest act by virtue of an arrest for petty theft in April 2001. The second was for conviction of 3 separate crimes that were substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of a marriage and family therapist intern, including, firstly, a conviction in September 2002 for the illegal transportation of marijuana and possession of a concentrated cannabis, which was subsequently expunged under PC 1203.4 in July 2009. A second conviction in July 2004 for driving under the influence of alcohol and driving with a blood alcohol content of more than 0.08%. And a third conviction in August 2008 for public urination, which was subsequently expunged again under PC 1203.4 in October 2009. And the last cause for denial was for the dangerous use of alcohol that was based upon the DUI that I just mentioned, wherein the petitioner drove through a red light on a surface street at approximately 80 miles an hour. So after the statement of issues was filed and served, the board subsequently adopted a stipulated settlement and disciplinary order in a decision that became effective October 3rd, 2013. Pursuant to that order, a marriage and family therapist intern registration was issued to petitioner and then immediately revoked. However, the revocation was stayed and petitioner was placed on probation for 5 years with optional and standard terms and conditions. Since then, petitioner's probation has been told 2 times, from October 3rd, 2013 to May 14, 2014, and then again from November 1st, 2016 to May 1st, 2017. His probation is now scheduled to end on November 10th, 2019.
I was just calculating the dates, and I think it's 2020, because when I added it up, I found that he had done 2.5 years in total, and I think is it in a 5-year?
It should expire in January of 2020. January.
Let's see. Let me do the calculation.
Please.
I'm sorry about that.
I may have made a mistake. I
So it looks like there was a total of 13 months of tolling. So October 13 months to October 3rd, 2013. Yes, it would be in 2020. Thank you very much.
Which month again?
Well, let's see, from October, give me 1 second. That would be November 2020. Thank you for catching that. So, as we also mentioned in the petition packet, petitioner has previously petitioned for early termination probation, November 3rd, 2016. The board denied that petition, but they did reduce the frequency of psychotherapy to 2 times a month and the frequency of biological fluid testing to 1 time per month. That decision, again, became effective January 23rd, 2017. Now the petitioner is making his second petition for early termination of probation, and he is representing himself in these proceedings. In his petition packet, the petitioner has indicated that he would like his probation to end early because he's completed all the probation requirements to date. He's applied for a licensed clinical examination, and he's been sober since 2004. And he continues to attend therapy and has maintained stable employment for the past 5 years and earned the respect of his supervisors. In support of his petition, he has also submitted a transcript showing 24.75 hours of coursework that were completed in 2017. I'm now prepared to proceed with questions for the petitioner, unless he wishes to make an opening statement first.
Okay. Let me place him under oath. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury testimony about to give is true and correct? And can you please state and spell your name for the record?
It's Rami Sami Murhi. It's R-A-M-I. Middle name is S-A-M-I. And the last name is Murhi, M-E-R-H-I.
Did you want to make an opening statement?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I'm here today to ask for release of my probation. And the reason why I'm asking for release of my probation is I'm up for my clinical exam for licensure. It's important for me to try to get off the probation before I start my licensure. I don't want to have a taint on my licensure of being on probation for the last 5 or 6 months of passing the exam. Also, it's also hindering me because I want to work with insurances, with the supervisors that I'm with to go into private practice and that sort. And insurances will not cover me because I'm on probation. I'm not unable to work with the insurances to work with Medi-Cal patients and stuff like that to bill and whatnot. So I want to start my licensure fresh. I have plenty of opportunities that are opening up for me. And this is just, this is a time for me to spread my wings and go for it. So that's kind of why I'm here today.
Okay. Ms. Wada, do you have questions?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, Mr. Murhi?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Murhi, have you ever been arrested since the public urination incident in July 2008?
No. That's 2009.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Have you been convicted of any other crimes aside from those that were the subject of the statement of issues?
No.
What steps have you taken to make sure that you do not consume drugs or drink and drive it anymore?
I have taken, I'm in therapy. I also have become on an H&I panel for AA 12 steps. So I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm very involved in that, and I'm pretty much in bed by 9 o'clock. Like, I go home to work, and I go home.
Currently attend or participate in any substance abuse programs such as AA or NA?
Yeah, so I go to NA. It means I'm required to go to them once a week. I currently go to more than once a week on my own. I have sponsees that I sponsor, and I do public speaking for H&I panels, and I do visitations to different treatment centers. I'm also working at a treatment center, so it makes it easy for me to run the groups and stuff like that for them.
Do you plan to continue your attendance in, I believe you said NA, if your petition is granted?
I prefer the AA more than the NA, but yes, I do both. So I do continue to work the panels and to be participating and work with my sponsees, yeah. Yes.
What step are you currently on?
I have finished the 12 steps.
Why was your probation told twice, the from October 2013 to May 14, 2014, and the second time from November 1st, 2016 to May 1st, 2017?
The second one, I recall my license actually expired. It expired right before the hearing that I had, and then I had to take the law and ethics exam, I believe, to get the stated in on ethics exam. That's why I got cut off. And I believe the first time I got laid off from the job, the company actually switched from the Gary Center, where I was for 3 years. They actually switched into Vista Community Clinics. It was a whole nother ballgame, and switched at the time. So that's kind of why. They only took a lot, so switched over. It wasn't because I couldn't work. It was because they took a lot of LCSWs and not MFTs.
Thank you. What is your current employment?
Well, from employment that I had, I was working full time a bit over a year at a place called Northbound. I just recently got laid off. My position was resolved, and they have another position opening up. But however, I'm not sure I want to go back, mainly because I wanted to get my licensure and try to do private practice. One of the reasons why they laid me off is because they know I'm going for my licensure, and the pay scale goes up for licensure. For if I get licensed, the pay scale goes up, and the company doesn't have enough to pay for a licensed therapist.
The first time you petitioned for modification or for early termination of probation, in the decision that was issued, one of the reasons why the board modified your terms instead of granting your petition was due to a letter of reference from your therapist, Yuki Frazier, who stated her opinion that you no longer needed weekly therapy sessions, but that maintenance sessions would be more appropriate. Have you spoken, are you still with that therapist?
Yes, I'm still with Yuki, yes.
And does she support your petition?
She supports my petition. She also gave me her blessing to be released off probation.
And finally, have you,
I have another answer to that question if you want. Is it okay?
Go ahead.
She gave me her blessing to get off her probation. However, it is ethical good practice for every therapist. Sorry. Oh, sure. Sorry. Yeah, so it is ethical good practice for every therapist to continue seeing a therapist. So I continue to see Yuki whether I am off probation or not. I enjoy seeing her as my therapist. I've been with her for 5 years.
Can you just move the microphone a little closer to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, sorry. And I actually have developed a strong bond with Yuki. So, she gave me her blessing to get off probation, but for ethical good practice, I would like to continue to see her. I've also referred my mom to see her as well, on her own as well. So, Yuki's kind of there for all of us, and yeah.
lastly, do you have any letters of reference from your therapists or coworkers or supervisors or friends or family to support your petition?
I do not have hard copies with me. However, I have mailed them in. I got the form, and it said that we were supposed to mail them in 60 days before the hearing here. And I didn't get a chance to harass my supervisor. He were very busy, and he eventually wrote it for me, but I mailed my stuff in after the 60 days before the hearing. But I did mail it in to my caseworker. So he does have a hard copy of, I mailed him, I believe, a letter of a recommendation from my supervisor that I was working with the past year. And I mailed him in 2017. I had Employee of the Month at Vista Community Clinics for a while. I think I mailed him a copy of all my hours being completed and the law and ethics exam being completed. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to turn the questioning over to the board members.
Ms. Lawner?
Good morning. Thank you for coming in. Excuse me, I'm looking at your therapist's quarterly reports, but I don't, and if we have it, I'd like to know, I don't have a recommendation letter regarding probation. Is that, were you referring to that, saying you didn't get some hard copies at the last minute?
I don't know if she wrote me one, but I'm with her twice a month, and I know she gave me her blessing. She gave me her blessing last time. I'm going to continue to see her whether I'm off probation or not. Like, she is there for me, and I have a lot of childhood issues that I work out. It's been a blessing to be with her as a therapist for 5 years, because when you work with one therapist for so long, it's great. And I when I have a hard day at work, she's my dumping session, So she's there all around. And as a therapist working in the field, I think it's good and important to have a therapist to, she has her therapist and they have their therapist. So it's kind of one of those things, but she's there for me for everything all around. So.
And how often are you going now?
Right now I see her twice a month.
It's a month. What would you do in the future if probation is modified in any way? How often would you see her?
Well, I'm going to continue to see her twice a month, whether I'm on probation or not. I'm going to continue to see her twice a month, mainly for my own gratification of me working with her, and because it helps out with working full time with clients and doing therapy and whatnot. So I'm going to continue to see her, probation or not. I'd like to see her for another 5 or 6 years if I can, So.
Understand. In terms of you're losing your job, you said that you were laid off. Does that mean moving forward that you're going to need to toll your probation again, or do you have another job lined up?
Well, I have a bunch of opportunities lined up, and which is one of the reasons why I'm here today. I have somebody that is willing to get me in for the Veterans Affairs. I worked at Salvation Army for 2 years. I really enjoyed working with veterans police for 2 years. I like to go to the Veterans Affairs. The last supervisor that I was here, I think I was here the last time I was here for the board hearing, I brought in a supervisor letter from Crossroads, and I actually helped him start a treatment center there. I'm very frequent contact. We're connected pretty well, and he wants to take me in as well to go back and work with him and do private practice. He has a lot of offices open, and he's willing to bring me in and show me the ropes and help me get a practice started. And so that's something I would really look forward to being with him again. He was very inspirational. He's kind of a mentor to me. And even the new supervisor now, he does stuff on the side, which I would love to work with him too. I have a weird thing where all the supervisors that I come across, I tend to hit it off with them. And, they're waiting for me to be able to, do private practice and learn the ropes with insurances and stuff like that. I feel like, in a sense, I'm hindered from working with them because no insurance company wants to work with me. The last place I was at, I applied for Beacon Health through the work, and I got denied, and Beacon Health said to come back when you're off probation at the last hearing. I would really like to start working in the field and trying to get my feet wet and start something to develop.
Thank you.
Dr. Whittlesbach? I don't have any questions right now, but I may after my colleagues.
Okay.
Talk to you. Dr. Chu?
Thank you. Thank you for coming here. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Why do you think the board should grant you determination of probation? What assurance you can give us, that you're safe to practice without probation?
Well, I haven't had any legal trouble since 2004, 2009. I peed on a wall. I admit it was my mistake, but I haven't had any legal contact in 10 years, just about. I haven't had a parking ticket in 8 years. I haven't had a speeding ticket in 7 years. I'm off the radar. I work hard. I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. I completed all my hours, completed all the exams. I've completed every fluid testing here. I did it for once a week for 3 years. I've completed all the requirements. I want an opportunity to start a life,
I'm sorry.
Do you need a break, sir? Okay, we'll go off the record for a couple minutes.
I don't know. Does it have anything to do with it? You can't chastise me for anything. Start with the conversation.
I'm sorry. I just hope you understand. I try to, get a clear idea. Do you?
Peter, he has to get back on the record.
Oh, okay.
We're not on the record.
We're back on the record. Mr. Mayor, you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Chu.
Thank you. Do you have a sobriety date?
I have 2 sobriety dates, and I know it sounds cheesy, but I use it with all my clients. I stopped drinking after my DUI in 2004, and I stopped using marijuana in 2002. At that point in time in my life, I didn't think I was going to college. I didn't start school till after all of that happened. I got lucky going to school. Going to college was a crapshoot for me. I started school very late. I got a full ride, and it was just, I pretty much went from gang to full-time student, sort of sense.
Thank you. I just want to get the record straight. My understanding is that your probation started October 3rd, 2013. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so without any tolling, it would be up on October 3rd, 2018. Is that correct? Because it's 5-year probation.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, but you're tolled for 13 months. Is that correct?
Yes, the first 7 months of tolling, I didn't have a choice of tolling or
Right.
not. I had to do a outpatient program, which I completed, and when I came in, I had perfect attendance. I had outstanding participation. I submitted all those certificates to the board. I completed the program without a hiccup, and that was one of the reasons why I had to toll in the very beginning, because I had to complete an outpatient program, and in
Right.
order for me to practice, it was very tough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do understand that. But what I'm trying to establish is that if the termination date is October 3rd, 2018, you minus 13 months from that, then the probation termination date would have been November 2019 instead of 2020.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I just want to establish, am I right about that? It's not, the termination date wouldn't be November 2020, it would be November 2019.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Sarita Coley?
In these, whether told or not,
Mhm.
well, thank you, sorry, for coming in first. But you've been on probation for more than 4 years now.
Correct.
What would you say you've learned while being on probation? What is different today?
From the probation period, or for me learning through my craft of being in therapy and working as a therapist.
However you want to say.
Yeah, for myself, my life has changed dramatically. I mean, I'm literally in bed by 8:30. I have gone from being 31 to, having somebody who's 22 years old that didn't know what was going on in life, that committed all these things and didn't think he was going to school. And now I'm ready to get married, and I feel like, this is kind of stopping me from trying to do something different. I'm an old man, pretty much. I mean, I'm in bed by 8:30. I have a person who loves me, and I don't do much. I play softball on Sundays for the last year, and I go to the beach with my dog. So other than that, I go to work. My philosophy is I go to work, I kick ass, I help people, and I go home.
So do you like your life now?
I love it. I love it. I love what I do for a living. Like this is like the best thing ever, and it fits me perfect. I mean, like it's subtle, it's quiet, it's able to help people that I've been where they are. I love working with troubled people because I have such a distinct past that allows me to have 10 years, 14 years of growth from it, and it allows me to help others. And that to me is a gift in its own, to know where someone's been and to be able to show them what life looks like. A lot of the clients that I work with now, they all, admire that because the clients are 20 through 24, and when they see their life starting at 23, 24, like it's not too late. I mean, I'm living proof.
So, just for me to understand, you're saying that where you are in life right now,
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten here by all the work that you have done and all the clients that you have met and the industry.
Absolutely.
That,
The supervisors,
Can I finish?
yes, sorry. Go
So,
ahead.
do you also feel that the probation in some way has contributed to where you are at right now?
100%. The probation, listen, the case managers that I've had 2 case managers since I've been on, and they are fantastic. All the case managers, my case manager now that I just got, he's amazing too. He's really good. They pick up the phone call. They're there for me. Being on probation helped out a lot. It's kept me on the straight and narrow, and I don't even see probation looking at my life now because I'm in such a 4 or 5 year routine that I'm just doing my life. Like, I don't see it as being on probation. I would just see myself as living life.
Thank you.
Chair Brown? Betty Connolly?
Hi, thanks for coming in. And it does sound like you overcame a really tough background and have worked really hard. How do you see your relationship? I mean, I know you don't drink.
Mhm.
You've got all these behaviors in place so that you don't drink.
Sure.
But you also said that probation has kept you on the straight and narrow.
Sure.
So I think what several of the board members have asked, and I think we're maybe just not hearing, is what do you have in place? Not your work, not the things that you've checked off the list,
Right.
but how do you identify your relationship with alcohol, with drugs? I mean, is it different now? And do you feel like if things go bad and you have a ton of stress and nothing's going well and all of these things that you've checked off are not checked off as nicely,
Right.
I mean, Are you tempted, or are you thinking that that could be a potential?
Absolutely not, and I'm gonna tell you why. I go to work every day. I work in addiction treatment centers, and I see it day in and day out with all the clients and where they're at. Being in that 12 step of giving back and giving back to the gifts of the clients, of letting them know where it's at. Like, there's no way in hell that I would ever drink or do drugs. Pardon my French. I'm sorry. But, like, it's not going in my body. It's not even on my mind. Like, I see every day of people's lives being ruined at work and trying to help them recreate theirs. There's no way I could ever give up mine. Even if, I mean, I've lost my job twice. I've lost three family members, a grandma, an aunt who died on dialysis. And there's no way that I would ever use drugs or alcohol because I can't give up my life. I've worked so hard to get where I'm at. There's no way I would ever give anything like this up. I mean, after 5 years of hard work and going through school and getting a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a minor's degree, and getting my drug and alcohol counseling license and getting an addiction specialist license, like, I put in 10 years of work into getting where I am today. There's absolutely no way I could ever give anything like that up.
And do you have the sense that if you were to even drink socially, that would put you at risk for that?
Well, I go out socially, but I do not drink. I carry a box of flavored waters of Crystal Lights. Now, it sounds cliche, but that's what I do. You know, if I go to a wedding, I have a water, I throw a Crystal Light in there. I've been doing that for years, and that's not a problem for me. I don't see myself drinking or using drugs. Like, I don't put myself in drug situations or put myself in. I don't go out to clubs. I don't go out to parties. Like, I'm very, very bland. I like to be bland. I like to be by myself, checked in. I like a good book and a nice TV show. Like, I'm too old to party, and frankly, I'm too tired for games, and I'm too old to pretend. So I got nothing left. Like,
thank you.
Christina Wong. Yes. Welcome back. So tell us, so we met you back in November 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about a year and a half. So tell us the difference, from that point till now.
Well, I've increased my work a lot. My work ethic is strong. I've actually bonded with more supervisors and created a new network. I go out to conferences. I pull in CEUs. Conferences. And it's okay. And I like to network. I go out to the 3000 Club for interns. I put myself out there in this field because bonding with other people gives me a sense of value of having something in common with other people that I know do the same thing. Right? So, I truly enjoy the work. I truly enjoy bonding with other employees that do the same thing, and learning from other people just as well as the clients is very important. So supervisors, I tend to take in for mentors, and I can never stop learning from people that have been doing it longer. That's my main goal, is to continue to learn, continue to develop theories, and I want to write a book. I have a lot of goals and things that I want to do.
So are you saying, so it sounds like, you're trying to surround yourself with more the professional people.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of, the people that you know in the past.
The other people I know in the past are gone. They're either dead or they're disappeared somewhere else. I have no contact with any of them. It's been over 10 years with all of that. So the people that I surround myself now are mostly supervisors and mentors. It's the old saying, people you keep around you make you who you are. So that's kind of where I surround myself with.
So in the psychotherapy report, one of the things that mentioned was about the possibility for you to basically about the lifestyle,
Mhm.
you know, and the social environment and stuff like that. So, you know, so I think you kind of answer that, you know, that question. But that's a very, very consistent message, you know, from your therapist.
Mhm.
So, and I kind of wonder, you know, why it's there, you know. I guess that, you know, I don't know if you have talked to your therapist about that sort of change, but that's a very, very, to us, you know, that's a kind of little you know, need a little explanation.
Yeah. Well, when I go into therapy, my younger days of being 21 and 22 were not easy. I was hanging out with gangsters, and I, you know, have a lot of trauma. You know, I saw a lot of people get shot. I saw my best friend get shot in front of me. Like, I had a lot of trauma. So, you know, I can't be in that lifestyle anymore, which has been so long. But for me to continue to put my traumas out there from when I was 22, 21, helps me to get through moving forward. I do a lot of EMDR treatment with my therapist. So, you know, I also work a lot with her for parental issues. So I have to work on that with her, but you know, I've been doing EMDR with her for the last 4 years, and she's a great therapist. Like, I truly enjoy doing EMDR. She's worked on my enjoy doing the EMDR, and you know, she's helped me everything from my dad not being there for me, or my mom like telling me as a child that I wasn't good enough, or me having road rage. She's, you know, constant work in progress, but a lot of those things are from older issues of being 10 years or more, and you can never work on them too much, you know. So
Wonderful. And I just want to commend you for getting out of the old lifestyle, which is really, really difficult. And so, yeah, and thank you for all the work that you have done.
Thank you.
Dr. Brew? Yeah, I echo that congratulations that you've come so far and worked so hard. I really see that. So you paint yourself as an old man, although you may have another 50 years of life to live. And something that was part of what was written by your therapist and part of your old life that I know you've left behind that way of doing this, but is that seeking fun and excitement. And so here, what I worry about is you describe your life quite dull and boring. And a sober life doesn't have to be boring. What do you do for fun?
I play softball on Sundays.
Okay, so that's your excitement, that's your thrill.
I also do Little League umpiring. So I umpire for Little Leagues for the Tots, and I do those on Sunday. I'm also a registered high school baseball official. So I went to umpire camp for a week, and I became registered, and I bought all the gear, and I went out and I started umpiring Little Leagues. Like, I like baseball. I play in an adult Whittier League of softball. I like to go to the beach with my dog, and I like to ride my skateboard. Even though I feel like I'm going to break my back sometimes. But I'm still trying to do it, you know? Like, and when I say I live an old man lifestyle, like, I'm literally gardening with my dad or taking him fishing. I took my dad fishing for the first time, like a year and a half ago, for the first time that he's ever been on a boat, and it's kind of one of the only things that we ever did together. So I'm stuck now. Well, I'm not stuck here, but I'm working on a relationship with my dad who's almost 80 years old. And
Now, he's an old man.
yeah. So he goes to bed at 8:30. I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, that helps, because I just wanted to see that there was balance in your life, and that you weren't just going to work and coming home and going to bed, because then I could see middle-aged crazy kicking in.
I try to go to the gym. I try to go to the gym as well. I try to go to the gym and exercise a few times a week. I try to walk the dog, you know. But it's like after 30, when you wake up and your back hurts, it's kind of like, you know, downhill from the old age.
Yeah.
So.
And then you also said you have someone who loves you, so.
Yeah, I do, yes.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, that's very helpful.
I can't. Sorry. And just so you know, the giggles are because of the old man jokes. So,
I'm sorry, this is Samara Ashley.
Ashley. Just a question, and you sort of referenced it earlier, but if you could just share with us what you have learned as part of this process that you plan to take with you in the future.
I'm just taking the lifestyle that I live, and for my own sense, like the lifestyle that I live is this was like almost like braces on the side. So if I could picture anything, I'm kind of a racehorse going on a racetrack, and I didn't steer left or right, but I'm just going straight forward. Like I'm just living the life that I'm living now, and this kind of gave me braces on the side of my life to keep me from going left or keep me from going right. It just kept me straight on, and that's where I continue to go. This has been very helpful. I'm not going to deny or question the board and the stuff that's been happening. It's been very helpful, but I feel like now that I've been going forward for so long, I want to just continue to go forward, and I can take the braces off. I kind of feel like Forrest Gump when he wears those braces and he starts to run, and the braces fly off, and he just keeps running. That's kind of where I see this.
Mr. Maddox.
Good morning and thank you. And life is like a box of chocolates. So I want to say I really appreciate hearing you talk and expound on and giving us increased clarity about some of the activities in your life around self-care, your past and things like that. It's really helpful for us and me in particular to hear that you don't just make broad generalities, but you actually have something underneath the surface that is actually holding you and helping you create a life worth living. So thank you for sharing. I do have a question though. And as I was reading through your therapist's notes, I noticed that between July of 2017 and October 2017, your diagnosis shifted from antisocial personality to generalized anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty significant shift, as you know, working in the field. Generally, personality traits can be pretty stable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, what sorts of skills and things have you acquired that you can implement when you get angry? You mentioned road rage earlier, or you're stressed out. And,
Sure.
and I'm not asking about activities because I'm pretty clear on what your activities are. Like, what are your self-regulatory skills that you've internalized to help you manage that? Because life, I'm not done.
Okay.
Situations will happen on the freeway, in the grocery store, especially with little league games. Parents can be ridiculous.
Yeah, they can. Yes, they can.
So just help us understand
Yeah.
what are some of the skills you now utilize to manage those?
Well, I try to play ahead of the game. So I leave early. I do military time. I show up 5 minutes early, and I'm never late. I do a lot of deep breathing. I do a lot of relaxation, and my calmness and my strength comes from me not living in a rush and taking a break for myself. Everybody needs a break, So I take time for myself, and I like to enjoy hanging out and relaxing. I do a lot more relaxing nowadays. I'm not run and up and go and go. I like to chill.
Okay. Yeah. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself using that deep breathing or other skills in the moment? I'm thinking more so about like you make a call a parent doesn't like. They're screaming about you about who your parents were and things like that from the stands.
Oh yeah. That comes very in handy. It's the parents you got to watch out for, not the kids. The kids don't know what's going on. So when the parents are there, you take a step back, you let them do their thing, and then as soon as they're done, you take a deep breath with them, and you tell them to take a deep breath. And usually after they take a deep breath, they're okay.
Okay.
So.
But it sounds like you do that for yourself. That's who I'm more concerned about.
Yes, I do that for myself as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for coming today. I appreciate just you sharing your growth pattern and path as you've gone forward. So thank you. I have no more questions.
Mr. Disposti?
Actually, no. Not for said. Thank you for.
You can testify on your own behalf about what you want the board to hear.
For all the accomplishments that I've had and everything that I've gone through, I've worked very hard to get here. I would never put it in jeopardy. Like the legal system's not seeing me in over 10 years. You guys aren't going to see me in a million years. Like, I just want to go off and work and have a life for myself and to get back in that field and bond with the supervisors that I have. Like, if you guys let me off probation, you won't see me, you won't hear from me. I'll just continue working and doing my thing. I'll be pretty off the radar. Like, I'm not here to make noise or to risk my license or to risk my life. Like, I'm pretty mellow and quiet. I just want to go off and work and start a career and a life. You won't hear from me, you won't see me again. This is...
Anything else, sir?
That's about it.
Okay, Ms. Wada, if you don't have any more questions, you want to make your closing?
I'll waive closing, Your Honor.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions? Mr. Mary, did you?
Okay, I think I said my piece, and I just have to put it in. Know where I'm at, so I think this is right now. I'm
Right.
okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. This letter is submitted, and we're off the record. Let's take a break until 10:50. Okay, so we are back on the record for the case of Ramasamy Merhi. There's an issue, Ms. Wada, and did you want to address it?
Yes, Your Honor. The petition packet that I submitted to Your Honor, and it has been marked and admitted as Exhibit Number 1, did not include any medical records, including limited to psychotherapy evaluations or quarterly reports that Mr. Merhi may have completed during his probation period or otherwise. However, inadvertently, some of that material may have been included in the packets that were prepared for the board's purposes. And so I do believe that during the board's questioning process, that those documents and the contents of those documents may have been referred to inadvertently. Mr. Merhi has been called back, and we explained to him that those documents are his confidential medical records and that he has the right to assert a right of privacy. And if he would like to assert that, he's more than welcome to. Mr. Merhi did tell me briefly outside that he is willing to waive that right of privacy here so that we don't need any corrections in the record, just the correction into state of that he will waive that, and so that those questions by the board can be duly considered in their analysis of his petition. And so, Mr. Merhi?
I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. I waive my rights for the petition. You guys can have advanced anything you'd like.
Okay. All right, so I want to thank you, and so now this matter's resubmitted, and we are off the record. We're going to start with the next petition right away, okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're back on the record in the matter of Mr. Mary. There's an additional issue we need to deal with. Go ahead.
We, on behalf of the Board of Behavioral Sciences, sir, we apologize very, very much. We respect your coming here today, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and bearing with us. We just want to make sure that your rights are upheld, you understand your rights, and we will abide by your rights. So thank you very much for coming back, and we hope this is the last time. I hope you can appreciate we're really trying to ensure that you are protected under the law, and we are very sorry.
Okay, Ms. Wada, go ahead.
Okay, Your Honor, I believe last time we were here, I obtained a very general waiver from Mr. Merhi, and Your Honor rightly requested a more specific waiver. So what I'm holding in front of me is a set of documents. 6 double-sided pages long, and these documents have been personally reviewed by the petitioner and by each member of the board here today. These documents are the psychotherapy quarterly reports performed by Yuki Frazier, who Petitioner already testified is his therapist that he's currently seeing. These documents are his confidential medical records. He's aware that they were referred to in these proceedings, and he has consented to their use in the board's determination of his petition, and he acknowledges that these are his medical records and that he will waive the confidentiality of these records for the use in this proceeding. Mr. Maroney?
Yes.
Is that your understanding, everything that Ms. Wada says? Did you agree with that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and so I'm going to be marking those as Exhibit 2, the documents that were just described. Do you have any objection to those documents being entered into evidence, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Wada,
May I
can have-
approach?
Yes. Exhibit 2 is marked and entered. Is there anything else from the board members or Ms. Wada or Mr. Merhi before we go off the record and this matter is submitted?
No, Your Honor.
No. Mr. Merhi?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so this matter is submitted, hopefully for the last time. Thank you, sir. Okay, and we're off the record.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Babcock? Mr. Babcock, are there any additional documents that you're going to be submitting into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor, I have 2 letters of recommendation.
Okay.
I have a resume here that I'd like to submit if I may, please.
And
I don't have copies.
You don't,
Forgive
okay.
me.
So the way we're going to deal with it is we're going to have the board members, when it's time for you, actually, you know what? Why don't you just, if you could just give the documents to Mr. Disposti, and he'll take a look at those, and then each of the board members pass them around. And then once the board members are done looking at those documents, when it's time for you to testify, we're gonna, actually, you know what, I'll be marking and entering them at the beginning of the hearing, right after the petition, okay?
Thank you, Judge Tenser.
As a point of order, could our DAG please instruct the board members with what information they might currently have in their packets?
We're not
that-
on the record yet.
Oh, okay,
Okay, yeah.
that need to be discarded, yes.
I just want to
Okay.
get the documents
I just wanna make
first.
sure
Yeah,
that's done.
yeah.
Your Honor, if I may?
We're not on the record yet.
Oh, yeah. Should we briefly then discuss something off the record of what the chair has brought up?
I think the chair wants it on the record.
I don't
I
necessarily
don't-
need to be on the record.
It doesn't,
Okay.
I don't think it matters, Your
So
Honor.
we don't run into this again, I think she could,
Yes.
if she would clearly state why she's doing and asking us to do what we're doing, and to get rid of and dispose, if in fact we have it in front of us, there are certain things we must not be having in front of us. Okay.
And board members, we can address this after these petition hearings are completely more thoroughly go over this, but your petition packets may not match up to the ones that I've prepared and that I will be formally submitting as the exhibit to the ALJ. And if the only documents I believe that may be in your possession, that should not be in your possession, would be the documents that we just considered in the last case, which would be the psychotherapy quarterly reports completed during probation. So if those documents in your binders, please do not review them and do not refer to them in these proceedings, and you will not be considering them in your rulings, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and while we're still off the record, Mr. Babcock, did you have any questions about the procedures that I can address?
No, Judge, I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Never mind. Clarifying question for whom?
I think Yuki Frazier was Y-U-K-I. Frazier was F.
I'll actually ask my question. I was just gonna say, can we just do one page at a time instead of waiting for the entire packet? I think that might help in terms of efficiency in reviewing the documents.
However you want to do it.
Thank you.
Are we on the record or off the record? Or off the record? I need to talk to the staff because this is getting ridiculous.
Can we in the future, they're off the record, in the future, can we remind defendants when they come to the hearings that if they have exhibits that they're going to be presenting, that they have enough for the board members, please? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
And Ms. Lawner, let me know when you're done, because once you're done with all the exhibits, we'll just, Mr. Babcock, can you just take your exhibits from Ms. Lawner? She's sitting over there, and then you can keep them with you until it's time. And then, Ms. Wada, I'm gonna ask you, when you do Exhibit 1, I'm gonna ask you to take his documents with you when you bring the documents. So I'm gonna do Exhibit 1 and Exhibit A at the same time.
Do you want me to present it as well?
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. Okay. Mr. Babcock, do you have any objection to Ms. Wada being the one to sort of do the procedural stuff on your behalf?
I do not, Judge Tenser.
Okay. All right. So if everybody's ready, we're going to go on the record. We are on the record in the petition for early termination of probation. I'm sorry, petition for reinstatement of license of PJ Philip J. Babcock. This matter is agency case number 2002018001753, OAH case number 2018040-266. My name is Irina Tenser. I'm the administrative law judge who's been sent from the Office of Administrative Hearings to preside over these matters, and will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with Mr. Disposity.
I'm always distracted when we get to that point. I don't know why. So just public member, just that's why you want me to introduce myself.
Just your name.
Just Max Disposti. Thank you.
Jonathan Maddox.
Samara Ashley.
Leah Brew. Christina Wong.
Betty Connolly.
Deborah Brown. Deborah Brown.
Sarita Kohli.
Peter Chu.
Christine Whitlis-Bach. Renee Lawner.
Okay, and can I get appearances for the record from the DAG?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the board. My name is Emily Wada, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
And Mr. Babcock, are you here representing yourself?
I am, Judge.
Okay, and so you've had a chance to watch a couple of hearings. Are there any procedures that you need clarification on in terms of how the evidence is going to be presented?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, just to go through briefly is just there's optional statement in the beginning. The DAG will make that statement. I'm going to place you under oath actually right away so that anything you say will be considered evidence. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury testimony you're about to give is true and correct?
I do.
Okay. And then there's going to be submitting of the exhibits. The petition will be submitted by Ms. Wada, and then you've provided 3 documents off the record that you don't have enough copies of for the board members. The board members all reviewed the documents, and so without your objection, Ms. Wada will be presenting that as Exhibit A. Is that correct?
No objections.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then there'll be the closing part of the hearing. All right, so let's get started. Ms. Wada, did you want to make your statement?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence Exhibit number 1, which is the petition packet and attachments, and then a prior default decision and order from the board, then a notice of hearing, and then a license certification. At the same time, since I'm coming up there, Your Honor, I'll be marking for identification and offering into evidence on behalf of the petitioner as Exhibit A the 3 documents that you mentioned earlier. They include the petitioner's personal resume and 2 letters of reference. May I approach?
Yes. Mr. Babcock, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1 being entered into evidence?
I do not, Judge.
And Ms. Wada, do you have any objection to Exhibit A consisting of the CV of Mr. Babcock and the 2 letters of recommendation, one from Jim McNally and one from Gordon Guy being entered into evidence?
No.
Exhibit A is entered, and I just want to say that there's a quorum of the board present. All right, go ahead, Ms. Wada.
I'll offer a summary of the case to begin with, Your Honor. The petitioner was issued a licensed marriage and family therapist license on December 27th, 1993. On April 27th, 2011, the board filed an accusation against petitioner based upon 3 criminal convictions and the dangerous use of alcohol. The first 2 criminal convictions were DUIs that occurred 5 days apart from each other in September 2010. And the third conviction was for public intoxication / disorderly conduct in June 2010. The petitioner did not respond to the accusation, and therefore a default decision was entered against him as he failed to file a notice of defense. The default became effective on August 26, 2011. Petitioner is now seeking reinstatement of his license. He's representing himself in these proceedings. In support of his petition, he stated that he knows he was wrong, that he had no excuse for his past behavior. He's also stated that he currently attends AA and support counseling, and that he's moved into a sober living environment called New House, and he's worked there for the past 6 years. He's also submitted, as we discussed as Exhibit Number A, his resume and 2 letters of recommendation. I am now prepared to proceed with questions for the petitioner unless he wishes to make an opening statement first.
Okay, Mr. Babcock, did you want to make a
No
statement?
opening statement, Judge.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Wada.
Mr. Babcock, what is your sobriety date?
6/22/2011.
And do you currently attend AA?
I attend NA primarily.
And how often do you attend?
Approximately 1 meeting a week.
Do you attend any, well, strike that. What other activities do you engage in to help you maintain your sobriety, if any?
Well, I feel like a really old man compared to Mr. Maryheat. At 61 years old, life is a journey, and I suggest that reading and continued education, meaning and purpose, self-actualization and transformation. Things I do is I do meditate. I do read. I'm a student of history and of physics and of psychology. My undergraduate degrees were in philosophy, so I'm a great student of the great philosophers of our species. I exercise, I surf, I play tennis, I play golf. I try to have an active social life. I try to breathe deeply. I try to embrace a healthy, meaningful, purposeful life. I'm constantly studying and reading on psychology. As you all know, there's 220 theoretical frameworks for the transformation of consciousness. So of that giant pool of thought, besides the great philosophers and thinkers of our species as we've evolved out of the savannah, there's a lot to learn and a lot to know. So I'm a student, I'm a learner, and I try to be connected.
Why did you wait 7 years to petition for reinstatement?
That's and I don't know that I have a good answer. Why I defaulted in the first place is a bit of a at the time both my parents died. I buried them. Went through a divorce, so I lost my daughter and my ex-wife, not to death, but to moving. It was a very traumatic time. And I ended up at New House in Santa Barbara which is a sober living environment for men, transitional housing. Takes the old social model, a bit antiquated, however, that's where I ended up. And I became a manager very quickly. And so I ended up kind of staying there and kind of managing. And outrageous. Life can be cruel and hurtful. And so I just chose not to. I had lost my license and I never drove. I rode a bicycle. And I was kind of, and I fell into a niche, but at this point I found the need to move on and to reestablish myself professionally. And, it just was kind of a timeout maybe in my life. Maybe a midlife crisis, I don't know.
Mr. Babcock, how do you plan to use your license if it is in fact reinstated?
I don't know that either. I always loved private practice. I believe I was an excellent clinician. But I was also executive director of mental health agencies, and I liked that too. So I suspect a combination of nonprofit focused 501c3s, maybe some private practice. But I'm kind of in that world of nonprofit. And I don't know exactly where I'll end up. Could be academic. I love teaching. So I'm not real sure. But certainly the license helps me reestablish myself as a professional in our field.
What work have you done since your license initially revoked to make sure that you are up to date with current practices and the law and regulation over the profession?
Important legal and ethical issues are one of my important aspects. So I've studied DSM-5 and taken some courses on that. I've continued to my education with behavioral cognitive psychology, which my doctorate was in. I was DNF on my doctorate, so not to hold myself out to be something that I was not. I was a parent and married, didn't quite get to that dissertation. However, I'm constantly reading and learning and trying to upgrade my skills and my knowledge. I take the profession very seriously. I believe I have extraordinarily exceptional personal and professional boundaries, and I think that's real important. The protection and ourselves is.
Do you have any documentation of your ongoing studies that you've referred to show the board that you're up to date with current licensing requirements?
I do not.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Babcock, would you be willing, as a condition of reinstatement of your license, if the board were to grant that petition, would you be willing to have it be subject to a period of probation wherein you would be monitored by an analyst of the board and perhaps subject to additional coursework requirements to make sure that you're in compliance with the many laws and regulations governing safe practice?
Of course I would. And I need some CEUs, and I'm anxious to get started. There's a plethora of stuff I'd love to take some courses on. So yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. That is all my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wada.
Do any of the board members need Exhibit A when asking questions? Okay, so I'm gonna give, we're gonna start with Mr. Desposti, and I'm gonna pass Exhibit A. And
Actually, at the moment, no. I prefer to hold. I don't have any particular questions. I'm still processing, but yeah,
okay,
I'll pass.
Mr. Maddox.
What is this? Good morning, Mr. Babcock. How are
Good
you?
morning. Fine, sir.
Thank you for coming
Thank you,
in
ma'am.
and being patient with our process today.
It's a privilege. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I do have several questions.
Yes, sir.
And I'm actually going to start in a reverse order. One of the questions that the Deputy Attorney General asked you was basically why now? And so you really didn't have a great answer. So I would like to reiterate that question, and maybe you could spend a couple minutes thinking about why after almost 7 years you're interested in sort of pursuing relicensure.
Well, I'm anxious to get started back in the field as a professional. And I'm anxious to continue on my professional career in psychology. I suspect a lot of it is financial. There's far more avenues with a license than there is without, both as a director or as a private clinician. I have great passion for psychology and for people and for the human condition, as we slog along in these lives that are so short. I want to get in and journey with people. I don't have answers, unfortunately, for any of you, but I can walk with you, and together maybe we can unfold the answers and peel away the layers of the onion to find some solace in your lives and some purpose and some meaning and some joy and happiness. I'm anxious to do that again.
So I guess a follow-up question would be, and it sounds like you have determined that in order to do that, it's important for you to have your professional license, because it sounds like you are a manager at Connard House. And is that the name of it? Newhouse, I'm sorry.
No, sir, I'm not currently. I moved out of Newhouse about a year ago, and I moved into a house. I live in Santa Barbara, up on the Mesa is where I live, and I'm not currently working in psychology. I've been given a job at PATH, which is the homeless shelter. Persons Assisting the Homeless is the acronym. And I'm hoping to start there within a couple of weeks. So I've been out of Newhouse now for about a year and been doing different things. I'm a house painter. I've done some bartending for a caterer, which I enjoy doing. It's a wonderful job and the money is good. So those are what I've honestly been doing.
Thank you. That's actually helpful, because that's a great segue into my next question. So one of the things I noticed on your resume is that there are no dates. And so I'm wondering if you could walk us through a timeline. Sir,
yes,
sir, I'm not done.
Forgive me.
That's fine. So maybe what would be helpful for me is if I ask you about the particular experience and you can give me the date range so that I can have a sense of systematically of sort of where things have happened. So we have Newhouse first. Could you give me the dates for that, please?
Approximate. You'll have to
Sure,
forgive
that'd be
me.
fine.
2011 to 2017, 16, approximately.
Thank you. A personal caregiver, self-employed.
That was my parents, 2005 to 2009, approximately.
Okay. And I want to pause to say I'm really sorry about your loss.
Well,
It had to
thank
have been very traumatic to lose both your parents in a very short amount of time. So thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry.
Cheers. Thank you.
You were the deputy director of a homeless services center. Could you give us the dates on that?
Approximately 1995 to maybe 96 to 2005, 2004.
Okay, thank you. You were the executive director of South Valley Counseling Center. What were the dates for that?
Well, that had to be 90 through 95. At least 5 years.
Okay. And I guess since we've gone through, the last one is just the regional campaign director. That's probably.
Oh, for Santa Clara University?
Yes.
I ran the Los Angeles office for 4 or 5 years, approximately 85 or 6 through 90.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's actually very helpful to sort of frame sort of your professional experience.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things that generally happens is when someone may have a DUI who's a licensee or pre-licensee is that they go through, they're placed on probation and they're given formal requirements that actually sort of outline sort of treatment activities that support their rehabilitation. And so I'm wondering what sort of services have you participated in to address your alcohol use connected to the DUIs? What have you done?
Well, I'll have to give you a little background on my education. I'm a certified multi-offender DUI instructor. I'm also was KDAC and CAR certified back in the day while I got my MA and my doctorate, DNF on the doctorate. So I have a vast experience in drug and alcohol counseling. Now, that doesn't answer your question. I primarily work with Jim McNally, who was my sponsor and friend for the last 8 years, had 46 years sobriety, and we worked extensively on my personal transformation, my taking responsibility for my behaviors, unraveling the causes of those dysfunctional, maladaptive behaviors, and then looking for solutions, whether through interventions of therapies or AA or NA, the social network, which I think is healthy. Taking accountability for my life and responsibility and recognizing that it was maladaptive and make those changes. Continued reading on addiction and recovery, and processing in that way.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you have a sponsor, you've had a sponsor.
Yes, sir.
How long have you had him?
About 8 years, I'm guessing.
8 years, okay.
7 years, it's difficult to remember, but call it 8.
And it sounds like you and he have been working through the 12 steps?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Since day
The 8
one.
years?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that's been the process, yes.
Okay. Are there other programs or rehabilitative activities that you've done other than your sponsor?
No, while living at Newhouse, you have to attend 5 meetings a week, so there was a lot of process in 12-step and H&I. I'd go on panels, help people. As manager, I would have an opportunity to work with guys and get experts in on different things, and so quite involved.
Sure. So, so then I would add your experience at Newhouse. Were there other activities that you've done?
Yeah, we did a lot of activity at Newhouse for the guys and for myself. You know, we had a weekly speaker meeting, and we had group sessions where we come up with different set ideas and talk about it, and of course sharing meetings and the like.
Okay. Have you ever been participated in therapy since the 2009 incidents to sort
Individual
of get
psychotherapy, no, sir.
Okay. Were there other modalities of therapy that you've done?
Only with Jim and with my social network of other people in recovery.
Okay. So that would have been sort of an informal process of maybe going to meetings and things like that, and not necessarily substance abuse directed group therapy?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you participated? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please, I'm just trying to think. Go ahead, I apologize.
Have you participated in NA or AA on an ongoing basis? I know you mentioned right now you go once a week, but was there a time in the past where you went more frequently?
Oh, absolutely. While living at Newhouse, it was 5 days a week.
Okay. Okay. How long were you at Newhouse before you were promoted to manager?
A couple months.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Okay. I'm gonna make a general statement and then I'll ask a question. Generally, when people, let me back up. Would it be fair to say that you went to Newhouse to get treatment for your alcohol use?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So in understanding that most people, and this is a broad generality, that go into a program like that would not accept a position of responsibility like manager or director because it can convolute their actual role of being a client in the program who's actually there to get healthy and to get better and to understand why they're doing what they're doing. I'm wondering how you balanced being a manager who's responsible for the program and actually working your rehabilitative plan.
Well, I should be clear. When I was promoted, the first 3 months, I didn't start out as manager. There were 3 positions, and I started off as an assistant helping at the front desk, answering the phones, doing intakes. Well, I think it's a good question, differentiation between what I'm doing professionally and my own personal process.
Sure.
I think it takes clear boundaries, ego strength, be able to differentiate between my own process and the person in front of me. I think that's part of my profession as a therapist or a psychologist.
Okay.
Difficult at times, but I didn't seem to struggle too much with separating the two.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you. Was it common practice of Newhouse to allow new participants who, or clients who come into the program to be given positions and promoted up, or was that unique to you?
It may have been a little bit unique. They used the social model, so you work your way up the ladder.
Sure.
However, I had a unique amount of education and experience. And there was a time when they had a great need. Many guys went out or used or left, and there was a vacuum.
Sure.
And I was able to step in and kind of start that process, and it kind of naturally unfolded.
Okay.
But no, normally it would take at least 6 months minimum,
Sure.
or maybe longer.
So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that because there was a need and a vacuum in the program, that they might not have prioritized your need to work on your sobriety. They may have prioritized your capacities and your professional sort of attainments to sort of fill up a need that they had in the program. Would that be correct?
I can't speak for them. I don't know.
But
that is a possibility, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your candor there.
Yes, sir.
I only have a couple more questions, and then I'll move on. I know everyone else
course,
has
it's
questions
okay.
too. I'm curious why in 2011, when you were notified that your license was going to be revoked, you didn't file a defense to at least come in and articulate sort of what's going on. Why didn't you file a defense at that time?
I don't know that I have an answer. I called and I spoke with, I forget the woman's name now, and she was quite kind and willing to help me. I suspect I was just in a space where I hadn't used my license for several years, since 2004. I was caretaking with my parents, so there was no need. It wasn't like I was in the process of using my license on a day-to-day basis. I don't know, I just wasn't in a position where it was important to me at the time. Maybe my own development, my own process was more important.
Okay. Then I have one last question, and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. The incidents that occurred in September 2009, you had 2 DUIs within 5 days, and then within the next 9 months, you had another incident. How would you describe your relationship with alcohol at that point? And I guess my actual question is, would you have described yourself as an alcoholic at the time?
Well, at the time I was living in my van, my Volkswagen Westie van. I had just left my parents, had buried them, the divorce was final, and I was just kind of cruising around surfing and fishing, and so my relationship with alcohol was an abusive one and unacceptable and verboten, because I was driving a vehicle while I was under the influence, and that's zero tolerance. That's not okay, regardless of my situation or my excuses. Forget it. I was wrong. I mean, whatever. Don't get in the car and have a drink on you. So I have no excuse or defense. I was just wrong. It's inexcusable.
Sure.
The ism part of alcoholism is a bit of a difficult one. If you embrace the dogma and philosophies of Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, I'm absolutely an alcoholic. I have a little bit of trouble with it because I don't see it in the ICD-10 or the DSM-5. I see addiction, I see withdrawal, I see abuse, I see a lot of things. And it's a very American kind of tradition of dealing with substance abuse. I'm free to say I'm an alcoholic. I still struggle a little bit with the disease model and the ism of it. I'm not sure. It's complex. It's a difficult nut to crack within our condition as people. I'm not a student of Bill Wilson of being a great philosopher or writing great dogma. It's huge in breaking isolation and getting people to look at their lives in an accountable way. And it works with a great segment of our population. But I think it leaves a lot to be said because I'm not a proponent of going around continually saying, I'm sick and I'm not okay. Well, you are okay and you're healthy and you're empowered and yeah, this is a slice of the pie of your humanity that was broken, but it's not all of you. And the 1930s notion of the 12 steps or the 10, 12 commandments and confession every day, I've kind of transcended beyond some of that philosophically, dogmatically, theoretically. But yes, I'm willing to say I'm an alcoholic, and I clearly abused drugs and alcohol. Period, paragraph.
Thank you, and I appreciate your patience with my questions. I have no more questions for now.
Okay, one
Thank you, sir.
second. I just wanted to ask, Mr. Maddox, did you write on Exhibit 2?
I did not. I wrote on my own paper.
Okay, great.
I wrote on my own paper.
All right. I just want to clarify just for all the board members.
No, I actually wrote on my
you know,
own paper.
You probably already know not to write on the exhibit, so thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maddox.
Okay. All right. Samara, Ashley, did you need to look with the
No, I don't.
exhibits?
Thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
Just one question for you, and it sort of is a follow-up to Jonathan's question regarding sort of your relationship with alcohol. And you mentioned that since then you've had a number of different careers, and one that you brought up was leader. And so I'm wondering, how did that work, or what's that dynamic like, having come from a state of addiction and having the DUIs? How did that work with your career options?
Yes, valid. And I certainly work, and it's not okay for me. It's an option, I guess. I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't say I'm never, ever. I know if I do today what I did yesterday, or I do tomorrow what I did today, I'll choose not to use or drink. But I have no trouble bartending and watching other people enjoy themselves. It's not an issue with me. I just don't, it's just not part of my, it's not in my wheelhouse. It's not part of my world. Yeah. Party on, keep rocking. I'm okay. No, thank you. And I have the ability to say, no, I don't want you or it right now. Thank you. Oh, thank you. With that, cheers. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Brew? Christina Wong?
I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So following up on the drinking issue. So will you ever drink again?
Well, I can't predict the future. I'm just at 61 years old. I don't know. I can safely say if I do tomorrow what I did today, I will not choose to drink or use. But I live in a world of gray. I do not live in a black and white world.
Sorry.
So, that's okay, Ms. Wong.
Hold on a second. Do we need a break? Or no? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Judge?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very cautious about absolutes, and so I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow or next year. I'm not a prophet or some kind of yes,
that's fair.
I won't.
That's fair.
But
Okay.
it's a possibility in the world of probability.
Okay.
I'd be in
That's
denial if I said
That's fine.
Okay, sorry.
Also, and then I have another, probably 3 questions. So, you know, you have, you know, you said that, you know, you have issues about, you know, the whole disease, you know, alcoholism being disease and stuff. So let's talk about the cognitive. So in that case, what is your understanding about your
Well,
or your substance use?
yeah, I mean, my massive thinking process or my pathology is connected to my experience, the nurture of my development as a human being. Triggers, I know that's a 12-step word. I mean, what experiences do I have in life, those moments, those existential moments that might make me want to be maladaptive or dysfunctional? Well, I'm sure there are a lot of them. You know, days, reminders, I don't know. I have a heightened sense of self-awareness and mindfulness, so I try to be very present with me, not anybody else. So I try to pay close attention to what's going on internally and what's going on with you. I've processed a lot in my life, Ms. Wong. I've had hundreds of hours of therapy and analysis by my choice because I loved it. I like that experience of tearing down the walls of my own mind and my cognition. It's a thoughtful question.
So I'm not hearing any particular triggers. So, I hear, how you process, how you see yourself,
Yes.
But I'm not hearing any particular points that, that would cause you to drink. For example, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
please.
Any life circumstances, or any personal maladaptive thinking, examples, so at least, I want to hear your insights.
Well, thank you. I don't know that I have any insights. I mean, life can be challenging and hard, and I suspect, at least for me, for most of us, it is. So pain is on the way in life, and suffering is on the way, and death is inevitable for all of us. And my friends and family will die, and I will die. So it's not a soft road. Are those triggers? Well, those are painful moments, and I have to face those existential truths in those moments, my own finality. It's coming, and at my age, probably not too long. So here we are at the end of the game, and the window is short and small. I don't know if those experiences trigger me to decompensate and slip into a haze of denial and alcohol or substance abuse. I don't think I'm going to go out and hit a tab of acid and drink a fifth of something. Yeah, life it's going to be, there's stuff, but okay, it's going to come and I'll be okay.
So I have one last question. So you just mentioned that you have, attended hundreds of hours of psychotherapy.
I have.
So, so when, are you still currently seeing a therapist?
No, ma'am.
So when's the last time, when did you stop?
Oh, it's been years, probably since 2004, 5, probably was the last time I had an individual session with a psychologist or an analysis, a Jungian analysis,
So that was right before, you started to caregiving for
Yes.
for your parents. So you had no insurance, I suppose, and.
Yeah, I had Cobra, but no, I moved in with them, and things were okay. I'd just come through a divorce, and there was some pain and suffering there, but my mom and dad needed help. They lived down in the desert. They said, we're going into a home, or one of you, my brother or I, come and help us. Well, I said, okay, I'll come down and help you. And I spent 4 years with them. Eventually buried both of them, and they both died at home. 60 years of marriage, which I'm very proud of. They were great folks, great people. You'd love them, I think. Happy, friendly. I was lucky to have a happy childhood, except for the unfortunate event of an older brother who was killed as a young man. We had a really happy home. There was no violence. There was no abuse. My parents were even-handed people, educated, kind. And I miss them, but they were well into their 80s, and that's okay. And it was a wonderful experience.
So 2004 was the last time you see a therapist?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's been a privilege, Ms. Wong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Connolly?
I appreciate you being here, and
Thanks for having me.
I guess I just want to say that sometimes I know I am going to ask some questions that you're probably trying to figure out why we're asking. And as you know, our charge is to protect the public. And as we consider reinstating, we're trying to really understand how you got to where you are and, you know, going forward, what that's going to look like in terms of your ability to perform professionally. And so going back, whether you refer to it as alcoholism or, and I'm pretty behavioral myself, so I appreciate the context.
Thank you.
At some point, you had a maladaptive relationship with alcohol or developed a maladaptive behavior or a relationship with alcohol. And I'm just trying to understand, you said you never drank when you were working and serving the public, but were you starting to go down that road of a maladaptive? At what point did you identify it as a maladaptive relationship with alcohol?
I suspect
Passed away?
yes. Both my parents drank. They were from that generation.
Mhm.
World War II,
Mhm.
you know, which is no excuse, but it's as a way of explanation, we drank. And I felt myself slipping into that maladaptive, addictive type of
Mhm.
habitual drinking, which wasn't okay. And then, you know, the history. A couple of years later, I'm kind of living in my van, kind of surfing, and the lights go on, and I get 2 misdemeanor DUIs within a week of each other. And that was sobering and shocking. And then I got the letter from the board saying my license had been revoked, and I was sick. And then I moved into a new house, and
So that helps a lot. So before that time, you were a social drinker. You felt like you were managing it. It was fine. And then you slipped into the point where it was kind of messing up your whole life.
yes.
So that happened maybe around 2006. Your sobriety date was 2011. So it sounds like you had 5 years of pretty serious drinking during
Yeah, I
that
mean,
time.
Yeah, probably 4 years, but I would say yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I was responsible, and I am responsible and accountable for it, and it was wrong.
So
regardless.
last question. Do you feel like you could ever be a social drinker again?
I don't think about that. That gets back to that ism part, and it's a tricky wicket. I choose not to drink, period, paragraph, and I say no. And I'm going to do tomorrow what I did today. I know in the literature, it's claimed that is a rare phenomenon. I'm not too sure that that's true. The European model, the English model, you know, they don't do the total substance-free lifetime banned. They do a behavioral intervention, and they work with it as a part of a process. You know, it's a good question. I don't have an answer at myself of it. I don't see myself socially drinking because I don't see myself drinking.
Okay.
period, and so it's not kind of in my genre.
Okay, and I lied, I do have one more question. So if you were to be put on probation with terms, whatever, is that something you are interested in embracing in order to get your license back?
Currently? Well, of course. Whatever the board recommends, I'm
You're willing to
amenable to
comply
your-
with the terms that, okay.
You name it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna remind you again, if you could just wait until one person stops speaking before the other one starts. The court reporter has a hard time taking it down when people are talking at the same time. Thank you. Okay, so let's ask that one more time.
If you were put on probation with terms in order to get your license back, are you willing to comply with any terms that we were to impose?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Forgive me for.
Okay, Chair Brown?
I have no questions.
Okay, Ms. Coley? Dr. Chu?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr.
You
Chu.
mentioned the sobriety date, June. Is it on? Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for being here. You mentioned your sobriety date is June 22nd, 2011. Is this both for drug and alcohol?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned you're currently going to NA once a week. Any reason why you pick NA over AA? Any particular reason?
Oh, Dr. Chu, I find Alcoholics Anonymous to be very rigid and constricting. I find it to be a paradigm that is so stuck in the model and the steps and the 1930s that there is very little tolerance for humanity. And especially in today's generation, so many young people are on ADHD meds and anti-anxiety meds and pain medications and opiate blockers and antidepressants and antipsychotics, and AA just seems to be so constrictive and judgmental. I have a hard time with that. My belief is excellence through diversity. NA, in my estimation only, tends to be much more welcoming. Oh, you're trying to get clean and sober. Or, oh, you're on this journey, or on this, welcome. Please join us. Well, I don't do it, well, you don't have to do it perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody. It's okay. Join us, get in the steps, get a sponsor, and together we will, trudge the happy road of destiny, as they say.
Thank you. One last question. Why do you think you're safe to practice?
Why do I think I'm safe to practice?
Yeah, I mean, you're requesting reinstatement.
Yes, I am.
of license.
I know I'm safe to practice. It's really, I think therefore I am, but I have exceptional clinical skills. I have exceptional boundaries, unless you can say, no, you don't want it. I have great compassion and empathy for human beings. I understand the law and ethics. I respect them. My focus is on the welfare of the patient. Do no harm. First thing I do is make sure medically they're checked out. Do you need a physical? Do you need this? Do you need that? Need a psychiatrist? Do you need meds? And then process through that therapeutic process of unfoldment to start to peel away those layers that are blocking happiness.
But as you know, our concern is whether you're going to use drug again or drink again, and you indicated that nobody can predict the future.
No, sir.
Yeah, so why do you think you won't get into trouble in the future? I mean, I just need assurance.
I will not. As much as I can predict the future, use drugs or alcohol again. And again, I never used my license while those years when I was with my parents. I wasn't foolish enough to think I could. That would be inexcusable for me. I mean, I have a, it's difficult to say I'm gonna do something. know, I can't imagine, it's inimaginable to put somebody in harm's way by my dysfunctional and maladaptive behavior. No, I will not do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I assure you, heartfelt, as much as I can from one man to another, one person to another, I can assure you, you have my word that I will not disappoint this board or your decision if it's in my favor.
Okay, Dr. Whittlesbach?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Lawner?
Thank you, and thank you for coming in today. I just wanted, most of my colleagues have covered most areas, but I had one point of confusion in terms of your educational background.
Yes, ma'am.
So could you explain the years when you got your master's and then your PhD studies? And you said that you didn't do your, well, at first I understood you had a doctorate and then you said you didn't finish your dissertation. So you can see my confusion?
Yes.
Could you clarify that?
I
for
will
me?
try. I had 2 years at Santa Barbara City College. Then I lived overseas for 3 years teaching in a trade school in the Micronesian Islands in the South Pacific. I lived in China, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, some other places. Anyway, I came back to this country. I went to Cal Poly San Luis for 2 years. And then I was off on other tangents. And I went to Gonzaga University, got my bachelor degree in psychology and philosophy, summa cum laude, and president of the school. Then I attended Santa Clara University, got my master's in clinical psychology, cum laude, president of the school. Then I got married, had a beautiful baby girl daughter, Sarah, and I did my doctorate at the University of San Francisco. I did not complete the doctorate. I was in it 3/4, 80% done, and because of the marriage and being a parent, I just could not finish. So that's my educational process. About 23, 24 years of education full-time, on and off.
So what years were you working on your doctorate? Just
I was working, let's see, Sarah was a baby then, so she was, it was the early 1990s.
do you have any wish to finish it?
I do. My gosh, it's killing me. I'd go back in a heartbeat if I could. I would. I love education, and I have so much to learn. And as the older I get, I learn how ignorant I really am. I'm an ignorant person, and I'm ashamed of it in some ways. I want to grow and process, and there's so much knowledge in this room, and that I'm scratching the surface. Yes, I'd have great joy in going back to school. Do it in a heartbeat.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions. Cheers.
Mr. Desposti?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, do any of the board members have any additional questions? Okay, go ahead, sir. What do you want the board to hear?
Oh, I think I've said everything. I'm so appreciative and grateful that you took the time to meet with me. It's got to be a hard job. I've sat through the two before me, and I'm indebted and grateful, and I just want to thank all of you for your time and dedication. So, cheers and all the best. You're most welcome.
Ms. Wada, do you have anything in closing or any additional questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have anything in closing besides what you just said, sir?
No, I sure don't. Thank you,
Okay.
Judge.
Thank you. This matter is deemed submitted, and we are off the record. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you, everyone.
So we're on the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of license for Sylvia Mendoza. This is matters before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. This is agency case number 2002-018-001-575 and Office of Administrative case 2018-040 265. My name is Irina Tenser. I'm the administrative law judge who's been assigned to preside over these matters. Will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with Ms. Lawner?
Renee Lawner.
Christine Whitlisbach.
Peter Chu.
Sarita Kohli.
Deborah Brown.
Betty Connolly.
Christina Wong.
Leah Brew.
Samara Ashley.
Jonathan Maddox.
Max Disposti.
Okay, a quorum of the board is present, and can I get the appearance of the DAG?
Good morning, Your Honor. Emily Wada, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
And Ms. Mendoza, are you here representing yourself?
I am.
And can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sylvia Mendoza, Sylvia Mendoza.
And Ms. Mendoza, you indicated off the record that you are familiar with the procedures for today's hearing, having observed 3 hearings prior to your hearing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so let me swear you in. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury testimony about to give is true and correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Wada, did you want to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit Number 1, the petition packet, which includes the petition itself with attachments, including a certified court docket, some course certificates, and a letter of reference from the petitioner's therapist, Philip Corrado. It also includes the prior decision and order following a hearing, and a notice of hearing and a license certification. Secondly, while I'm up there, Your Honor, I would also like to mark for identification as Exhibit Number A and move into evidence on behalf of the petitioner documents that she brought to this hearing herself. They include 6 different letters, one from her psychiatrist, Dr. Carm, and then 1 work reference letter and 3 letters that appear to be from her church peers and 1 from a personal friend.
Okay, and Ms. Mendoza, did Ms. Wada accurately describe the documents you want to submit into evidence?
Yes.
Are there any additional documents that you want to submit into evidence?
No.
Any witnesses besides yourself?
No.
Okay.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Exhibit 1 is marked. Any objection to Exhibit 1, the petition as described by Ms. Wada being entered into evidence, Ms. Mendoza?
No.
Exhibit 1's entered. Any objections, Ms. Wada, to Exhibit A as you described it being entered into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit A is entered.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement of the summary of the case. Petitioner was issued a licensed clinical social worker license on December 24th, 2001. On January 28th, 2010, the board filed an accusation against petitioner based upon 2 causes for discipline, including the conviction of a crime substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of a licensee, and based upon unprofessional conduct. Both causes for discipline were based on the fact that petitioner had been convicted of burglary on January 27th, 2009 for entering a Macy's department store and stealing over $1,000 worth of merchandise. A matter in aggravation that was pled also into the accusation was that petitioner had been previously convicted of theft on February 21st, 2003 for stealing over $100 worth of merchandise from Costco. The matter was tried before an administrative law judge at the Office of Administrative Hearings, who issued a proposed decision to revoke petitioner's license with an order of reimbursement for costs in the amount of $4,545. The proposed decision was then adopted by the board in a final decision that became effective January 3rd, 2011. Petitioner is now seeking reinstatement of her license. She's here representing herself. In her petition, Ms. Mendoza stated that she is seeking reinstatement based upon the following facts. Both of her previous convictions for burglary and theft have been expunged under Penal Code 1203.4. She is not engaged in any criminal behavior since the last incident at Macy's. For the last several years, Ms. Mendoza has engaged in weekly psychotherapy sessions, monthly psychiatric medication evaluations, and consultation sessions and weekly prayer groups. She's also completed 8.5 hours of continuing education credits in 2017. And she has a letter from her psychologist explaining that Petitioner obtained a diagnosis of bipolar disorder between 2012-2013, which explains her prior actions at Macy's and Costco as manic episodes, and that she's receiving ongoing treatment and medication for this condition that will help her manage her symptoms and the prohibitance of any future incidences. I'm now prepared to proceed with some questions for Ms. Mendoza unless she wants to make an opening statement.
Yes, I'd like to make a statement.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Before I make a statement, I wanted to correct some items in my petition packet. In item number 8, my answer in the third paragraph towards the middle, I put down in May, I was in Macy's. It's actually in August. I don't know why I put May. Then at the end of that paragraph, I put the conviction of robbery. And that's much worse than burglary. I don't know why I used the word robbery. It should say burglary. On item number 11, I also incorrectly put robbery instead of burglary. Okay. Well, good afternoon, Your Honor, Chair, and the Board. I've been looking forward to this opportunity. I know you've taken a lot of time and effort to read my petition and the documents submitted. This has been a challenging yet necessary process that I've undergone since my last arrest in August 2008. I vowed to myself then that I would never reoffend. And I'm happy to say it's been 10 years that I have not reoffended. The process has been challenging because the consequences of my incidents of theft went beyond the criminal system. They affected my professional life when the board decided to revoke my license as a clinical social worker in January of 2011. At the same time, I needed a license to hold my position as a supervising psychiatric social worker with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. The revocation of my license ultimately led to the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, Human Services to terminate my 13-year employment with the county. This was a devastating blow, personally and to my career. However, I find that this process has been necessary because it forged in me a resolve to face my emotional demons and to finally grasp the meaning of living with bipolar disorder. I understand that since my license was revoked in 2011, that I was eligible to reinstate my license in 2014. However, I was not ready at the time. I was still caring for my mother, who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She was then in the middle stage of Alzheimer's. I'm an only child, only family. I depended on some IHSS caregivers, but the burden of caring for an adult with Alzheimer's fell on me. So I felt I wasn't ready at that time. I believe that one of the essential parts of my rehabilitation process has been that I received the appropriate mental health diagnoses and treatment. In 2008, I was seeing Dr. Carmi, which you have a letter from him, and I missed my June 2008 appointment. Because he's so booked, he's a popular psychiatrist, and he would not refill any of my medications. The next appointment that the secretary could offer me was September of 2008. I didn't understand the effect of going off even antidepressant medication would do for me. Hence, that's what led to my becoming manic. I did not understand that at the time. To me, I just had racing thoughts, insomnia, and I think I wrote in one of my letters to the board, I wanted to get back at someone. There was a lot of anger, and I didn't know how to express that anger at that time. Historically, I never thought to share with any mental health professional treating me about my thoughts when I was in those manic episodes. I really thought I was invisible and invincible. It makes no sense now, but at the time I thought, I can take that and no one can see me. Now I understand that's a symptom of my disorder. So Dr. Corrado was the one to diagnose me and has helped me to understand the disorder of bipolar. It took some time, though, for me to open up to him. So during our sessions, he would ask me why a smart, successful, professional social worker would put her license at risk. And I couldn't answer him. I would just sob and say, I'm a horrible person. I did bad things that I shouldn't have. I took the full blame and felt the shame without knowing really the nexus of my emotional issues with my actions. However, I don't want to blame the bipolar disorder simply as that's why I took things. I want to take responsibility that I did choose to go to Costco. I chose to go to Macy's, so I take full responsibility. Through therapy, I've identified triggers and conditions that led to the development of my manic symptoms. In the past, interpersonal conflict, lack of sleep, poor self-care routines, and automatic negative thoughts were triggering for me and increased my overall stress. Additionally, I've learned that I was in denial of my need to take psychotropic medications. Without medications, I risk becoming manic and more impulsive in my actions. I learned that I make poor decisions when I'm off my medications. Therefore, medication compliance is of utmost importance in reducing my risk of relapse and reoffending. Through therapy, I've also learned to be more self-aware of my reactions, thoughts, and emotions to daily life. I've learned to manage the stressors in my life by learning emotional self-regulation techniques, such as grounding or mindful meditation. In terms of my relationship with people, I used to feel overwhelmed when I had conflict. Since I wasn't self-aware of my emotions, I would bottle things up. Now I'm able to acknowledge my feelings and able to express my feelings in an appropriate manner. Also, previously, I depended on black and white thinking patterns when it came to my emotions. 1 minute life would be great, and the next minute life would be horrible. For example, when my license was revoked, I thought my life was over and that I had no chance to redeem myself in any way. Now I see that not all things are either successes or failures, but the more important part is the process. Now I see a lot of gray and complexities in any challenges that I face. Another essential part of my rehabilitation is the integration of a spiritual and supportive community in my life. Through this, I'm able to see how I can lead a more authentic life, where my inside matches my outside actions. For example, my involvement in a small women's group meeting at Vision Christian Fellowship, which you have some letters from my fellow small group members. They've known me for some time, and they were willing to write letters for me, knowing what I've done, and they've seen me progress. The small groups women's meeting also provides me a space to request prayer and seek support. It's not simply a place to unload, but it's also a place for weekly accountability. For me, another part of living an authentic life is giving back to others. I believe in service. And so I have volunteered with the Pasadena City College InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. I had been a committed member, but in the past 2 years, I have become one of the leaders. Now, this is quite unusual in a community college setting to have a 50-some-year-old involved with 18 and 20-year-olds. But it's become a part of my life so much that it gives me joy to work not only with the leaders, but with the members. I almost forget that I'm 50. So my role as a leader includes coordinating and carrying out outreach activities and leading weekly Bible studies. In closing, after 5 years of weekly treatment with Dr. Corrado, I've developed insight into my disorder, my coping skills, and support systems to maintain my stability. If I maintain my medication compliance and utilize my internal and external supports, I will minimize any risk of acting out and breaking the law. However, I realize that life can be unpredictable. Stresses will come. In those instances, if I start to notice any symptoms or triggers of mania rising, I have developed a plan of action to address these concerns. First of all, I'm to outreach to Dr. Corrado. He's available 24/7. I can outreach to Dr. Carmi, my psychiatrist. And more importantly, I can share with people now. There's no more deep, dark secrets with Sylvia. Last night, I was at our weekly leadership meeting for the Pasadena City College InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. And when we ended, I asked them for prayer for this meeting. And they lovingly took the time to pray favor, to encourage me that God wants me to move on in my life. And they just simply loved me last night. So nothing can take that away this past 10 years. I want to tell the board that I can see myself working in a community mental health agency. I hope to return to the county, but if the county does not want to hire me, there's many nonprofits where I can make a difference. I used to work with youth and their families in Bell Gardens, a primarily Latino population, and it made me so proud to see a parent being able to enjoy their child again, and vice versa, to open that conversation between the two. I was essentially the mediator, and I gave the parent skills to be able to manage behavior that needed to be managed. And so I want to go back to that line of work. I want to make a difference. I want to empower parents. I want to empower disenfranchised. I'm empathetic, and certainly anyone that I come across with a mental health disorder, I can now really relate to the issues of having that disorder and having to take medication and say, I'm going to need this. So finally, in 2001, the Board of Behavioral Sciences in the state of California invested in me by granting me a license in clinical social worker. I asked the board today to reinvest in me and to reinstate my license. That's all.
Okay, Ms. Wada?
Yes.
Just to be absolutely clear, that was a very nice opening statement you gave. But have you had any other run-ins with the law or any arrests or convictions since the last incident at Macy's?
I have not.
How well do you feel that you are currently managing your mental health?
Very well.
Do you believe that your newer diagnosis of bipolar disorder would in any way negatively impact your responsibilities to the public as a licensee?
No. In fact, I think it would help me. As long as as I stated, maintain medication compliance. I intend to see Dr. Corrado, hopefully not forever, but that's part of my plan right now. I believe I can safely practice with bipolar condition.
In the letter provided by Dr. Corrado dated January 4th, 2017, in the second to last paragraph, he states that we have developed an emergency plan in case her symptoms increase. Could you please elaborate on that emergency plan?
Well, the emergency plan is to contact him. And as I stated, he's available 24/7. So he can leave a message with his cell phone. He doesn't use an exchange. He has a cell phone, which he checks regularly. And so I would check in with him.
Are you currently employed? And if so, in what capacity?
I'm not currently employed. I am doing volunteer work with the Pasadena City College InterVarsity Christian Fellowship.
Lastly, if the board were to grant your petition and reinstate your license, would you be willing to agree to a term of probation, monitoring, and other requirements to make sure that you're in compliance with the many laws and regulations governing safe practice?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. That's it, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm just gonna start with Ms. Lawner. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, excuse me, thank you for coming in and for all the hard work you've done. It took a very long time to get an accurate diagnosis, and without that, as we all know, there's no proper treatment. So that was excellent. I wanted to ask you, the letter from Dr. Carmi is current, it's May, but the letter from your therapist is from 2017, is that correct? Did you ask for a current one, or?
It should say January 2018.
So it's simply a typo?
Yes. I asked him for a letter in order to submit with the petition packet. So it should read 2018.
Okay, so that's just a typo.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I don't believe this was covered. If it was, I apologize. But on the information we have here, it says you've not yet been able to reimburse the board for the prosecution cost recovery?
Correct.
So where would we be on that if the board were to decide to reinstate your license?
I would hopefully, or I request a payment plan. Right now I'm not working, so I do have some income through property. I have a duplex, so the rent on the tenant side helps me pay for the mortgage and any other cost bills. So I have a limited income right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Dr. Chu?
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming in. I have a couple of questions regarding Dr. Ellen Carmi's letter. The one dated May 7, 2018. At the beginning of the letter, he mentioned that he first saw you in 2008 for depressive symptoms. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the letter, he states that Sylvia is stable and has not exhibited any manic symptoms, but he didn't mention anything about your progress in terms of depressive symptoms. Do you know why?
Well, I believe he was focusing on the bipolar diagnosis in that letter.
So how are you doing?
Oh, in terms of the depressive symptoms?
Yeah.
They're under control.
Okay.
They're the same internal supports and external supports that I use for my bipolar disorder, I use for the depressive symptoms. So if I'm isolating, I will say, no, you need to reach out, you need to talk to someone, you need to be with people.
If you don't mind me asking, what kind of symptoms off and on you're still experiencing in the recent months?
I would think it's not.
So just are you willing to waive and provide medical information? So otherwise, there's a couple other options we can do. Go
Your
ahead.
Honor, at this time, I would only state on behalf of the people that we believe the petitioner has waived any right of privacy by offering letters from her psychotherapist and psychologist. So by putting it at issue, she's waived the right of privacy for the board to question her on the substance of these materials. Thank you.
Okay, is that your understanding too, Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So are you asking in terms of my depressive symptoms?
But any symptoms, actually,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I believe all the symptoms really are under control. What really affects me are the negative thinking patterns that I'm still learning to say, no, that's not true. It's the black and white thinking. Oh, you're lazy, you're not this, you're not even being a good enough Christian. Those thoughts come. But then I counter with, well, that's not true 100% of the time. And look, you're doing this. And so it helps me with all my symptoms. But that's what I would encounter, say, on a day-to-day basis, the negative thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Coley?
I have no questions, thank you.
Chair Brown?
Thank you for coming in. At this point, I don't have any questions.
Ms. Connolly?
No questions.
Ms. Wong?
I just want to make a remark. I have no questions. I think because of your personal experience, I think, you will make a really, really good clinician, and understanding the importance of, the accurate diagnosis, leading to accurate treatment.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Dr. Brew?
Yeah, I want to echo that. I was thinking, what a relief it must have been to get a proper diagnosis and understand that it was a neurological issue rather than a moral character issue. I just have a couple of questions. Having sat on this board before and addressed people who've struggled with bipolar, you had said, I hope I don't have to continue seeing him forever, and I couldn't remember if it was your psychologist or psychiatrist you were referring to.
Dr. Corrado, my psychologist.
Psychologist, okay, okay. Then I guess one time we had a case where somebody had been diagnosed bipolar and had been on meds for 20 years and felt like, okay, I don't have to get off of meds anymore. And I'm wondering if there's a risk of that for you.
There's not.
Okay.
There's not. I've come to accept I need to take these medications. I accept it as a neurological problem, a biochemical problem, and just like a diabetic would need the insulin, there is no shame or stigma to take these psychotropic medications.
Great, wonderful. And then the last question I have is, you've talked about your support system with the psychiatrist and your psychologist or your therapist and your church group. And you talked about meeting with them on a weekly basis, but what about the days in between? And the reason I'm asking this is even under medication management, your body chemistry changes, and you may not be able to see that you're starting to go off the rails in one direction or another. What's sort of your daily exposure to people? Is there someone who would be there more than once a week to be able to go, maybe we should go visit the psychiatrist today?
Well, she's present right here.
Okay.
She's sitting behind me in the pink.
Okay. And friend?
Yes, she's a friend from church. Her and her husband mentor me, and I believe I can call her and
You've
tell her.
got regular contact, so she would be able to notice that your behavior is not typical.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. And really, congratulations on all this hard work that you've done for the last 5 years, because you could have just done medication and been done with it, but I'm really impressed with the therapy and everything else you're doing and your spirituality. It shows.
Thank you for that comment. I accept it.
Ms. Ashley?
I don't have any questions, but thank you.
Mr. Maddox?
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming in. And I want to echo what everyone else has said about your sort of journey and recovery, and really appreciate what you've shared today and just all the hard work that you've done to sort of restore, and not sort of to restore your life and to really get back to the point where you are. So thank you very much. I do just have a couple of clarifying questions. So it sounds like you are under Dr. Karn's medication management on a regular basis. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also are in therapy? How long have you
Yes.
been in therapy?
I started with Dr. Corrado in 2012.
Okay.
That's when Dr. Carmi referred me for differential diagnosis.
Okay.
So with Dr. Corrado in 2012.
And it sounds like those are things that you clearly are going to continue. If the board were to decide to move forward and support you, that you would continue with that.
Oh,
for your own-
definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Briefly, just to echo what has been said until now, I just wanted to commend you for the work as well. I think the story that you share with us, first of all, thank you for sharing your pain. That's never easy, especially because there is stigma out there that we're fighting every day. So you being here sharing that with us was very empowering and powerful. So I just want to commend you for that, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Mr. Disposti. Okay, did you have anything you wanted to add, Ms. Mendoza? Because your opening statement covered pretty much a lot of territory. Anything else?
I believe I said everything I can that I want to.
Okay, are there any additional questions from the board?
I wonder, Your Honor, I wonder if Ms. Mendoza wants to have any witness testimony. I'm just wondering.
Did you have any witnesses you wanted to speak on your behalf today?
Well, I didn't ask her. You want to?
Okay.
You want to testify?
All right.
She's willing.
Okay. Come on up, ma'am. And then Ms. Wada, did you have any additional questions for Ms. Mendoza?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And so, ma'am, if you could just bring the microphone close to your.
You gotta push the button to make it turn green.
There you go. Okay. And what's your name? Can you please state and
My
spell your
name is Mary Clark Alvarez,
Okay. And can you spell it, please?
MaryClarkAlvarez.
All right. And let me place you under oath. If you could raise your right hand, do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury testimony you're about to give is true and correct?
I do.
Ms. Mendoza, do you have any questions for Ms. Alvarez? You can ask her to testify in a narrative if there's no objection from Ms. Wada.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, so she could just talk about you and your rehabilitation.
Yeah. What would you like the board to know from what you know about me?
Sylvia consistently is kind, thoughtful. I don't know, it makes me want to cry. She's an extremely good person. She's very moral. She's got a lot of integrity. And I've only known her for a little over a year, but we've had deep conversations. And she's somebody who's come out of a lot of abuse, a very abusive household. And the mother that abused her so horribly, she takes good care of her. She consistently goes to visit her. For 10 years, she had to care for her in her home. Nobody would take her in. No nursing home would take her because she was so violent. And the mother was verbally and physically so abusive to her whole life, but then especially in those 10 years when it was just Sylvia and her mother. But Sylvia consistently showed her love and care. And she is there for those young people. She goes regularly to visit them, and she is like a mother to them. And she's just the top of the line. She is a wonderful person.
Ms. Wada, do you have, I'm sorry, Ms. Mendoza, do you have any additional questions?
I think you covered it all.
Ms. Wada, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, do the board members have questions? Okay, thank you. And so, Ms. Wada, do you want to make a closing statement?
I'll waive that, Your Honor.
Ms. Mendoza, any closing statement?
No.
Anything else the board wants to add? Okay, thank you, ma'am, and this matter is submitted and we're off the record.